You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And
well, hello, everyone, and welcome in. We have got a special program coming up tonight here on the Six Screens. Last week, we talked about alcoholism, or actually 2 weeks ago. We talked about alcoholism in fact, it was last week. I'm sorry. We talked about alcoholism in the Watchtower and how many Jehovah's Witnesses drink heavily. Well, many, we found that out last week. But now we're going to talk on another subject, mental illness. I mean, there's a lot of problems in the Watchtower with people being mentally ill. And whether it's multiple personality or whether it's schizophrenia or whether it's just total anxiety and panic attacks that are creating all kinds of issues in people's lives. Well, Dick and Constance Borghi have got a program on here tonight, and they're going to talk about this. So let's bring them on. Hello, Dick, and hello, Constance. Are you on with us tonight? Okay, let's see if we can't get them on. Dick and Constance, are you on with us tonight? Well, just waiting for them to come on. Okay, there we are. Okay, so we got you on here with us tonight. So we got a program called Mental Illness. Now, you guys probably have noticed, now that you're out of the Watchtower, maybe you didn't notice it so much when you were in the Watchtower, but, there is a lot of mental issues. And I can really see that. Now that I look back on the trail, some of the people in Kingdom Hall, man, they were really suffering. At the time, I couldn't really see it. But now that I'm out, I do see it. So I'm
interested in Joe.
Yeah, hold on one second, sir. Yeah. Well, we got these drunken Bethelites. I'll be keeping an eye on these guys, Constance and Dick. But anyways, so what do you guys have to say about this?
Well, actually, we'd like to start off with Jehovah's Witnesses and the problem of mental illness, which is actually the title of Dr. Jerry Bergman's 1992 book about the wackiness of Jehovah's Witnesses, their teachings, what their teachings cause. Two things we're going to start off with, and the first one is PTSD. And then we're going to go to cognizant dissonance. But before we get into that, I'm going to do something I've never done on Six Screens before. I'm going to dedicate this talk here to Rocky Shaw, who was a brother that I knew at my book study, who committed suicide at age 22. So there is a lot of mental illness. It causes a lot of pain. We just heard from Joe D'Addario the pain that he's been suffering. You'll never find a nicer guy. You'll never find a more accomplished man. He can do almost anything. Loving, kind, brilliant guy, really. And he's just so messed up with the Watchtower. So, Joe, I know you're probably still listening. Me and Connie love you. And the offer that we made to you last week still stands.
We love you, Joe. We really do. We're so glad you're here tonight.
Alrighty, so let's get started with this. PTSD. You hear about it a lot. What does it really mean? Post-traumatic stress disorder is what it stands for. And how you can tell, well, you really can't tell, but we'll get into that in a second. But it features hypervigilance. Now, Armageddon's coming. No flesh would survive if the days weren't cut short. We know that's in the back of everybody's psyche. And then that kind of dwarfs into distress, and then confusion, then depression, and also anxiety. Sometimes you don't even realize you have it. And I'd like to give an example of myself. I came back from Vietnam in 1969. And came back without a scratch, never got wounded, nothing like that. So I come home and I'm with my parents and my sister. And one of my favorite TV programs was I Love Lucy. I used to laugh so hard in that show I'd pee my pants. I mean, I really thought it was funny. I was sitting there on the couch watching I Love Lucy. Everybody's cracking up. My mom, my dad, my sister, everybody's cracking up. I sat there stone-faced, and I knew there was something wrong with me, but I didn't know what it was. Didn't have a clue. I didn't even find out what PTSD was till like 20 years after I got a discharge from the Marine Corps. In the olden days, they used to call it soldier's heart or shell shock. Now it's PTSD. It simply means you saw something that was really traumatic. It's in the back of your mind, and certain triggers bring it forward. And when that happens, you're in a state of mental anguish, you're distressed, you have anxiety, and that always forms into depression. That's how it works. And I would say star 6 to anyone who wants to comment. I don't want to go too far into my notes. If someone wants to comment on something. Anybody? Star 6? Alrighty, then I'll keep on going. I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2004, many years after I left Vietnam, which was 69. And I went to vet groups for 10 years, and we talked about, the things that we saw, the things we had to do, and so forth. And there was one guy that used to sit beside me, and he was a cook. And he never saw combat, never took in rockets and mortars, didn't have to deal with bamboo vipers and snakes and all the stuff that makes life in Vietnam a lot of fun. He never had to deal with those things. But yet he had PTSD really, really bad because he was always worried about getting sniped, rockets and mortars being thrown into his position, snakes. There's all kind of things that could take your life over there. And he obsessed on it. I mean, it makes a lot of good sense to worry about your life when you're in a combat zone because people die over there. We lost 48,000 men, came home in body bags, and thousands more came back with some form of disability. So I'm saying to you folks, and to you Jehovah's Witnesses out there, if Armageddon is in the back of your mind, you might not even realize it, but it's there. It's renting space, and it's causing anxiety. So you're hyper vigilant, which means anytime something happens in the world, that's another sign that Armageddon's seconds away. It's going to come tomorrow. I can remember in 1992, I was at the Kingdom Hall, and Brother John Major came up to the platform, put his book down real hard on the podium, and said, "Brothers, you know what happened yesterday? China was admitted to the UN," because we used to knock the UN as being, a terrible organization. China, Communist China, has been admitted to the UN, and California just had a major earthquake. What does that tell you, brothers? And everybody's, ooh, it's going to be right around the corner. But, it hasn't come. They obviously, we talk about this a lot, they obviously said 1975 was going to be the end. They said it definitely was going to be the end. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but now they're into overlapping generations. PTSD. Do you think you have PTSD? If you do, come on and tell us about it. Do you worry about Armageddon? Does it weigh on your mind? Come on, star 6.
Yeah.
PTSD. Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Joe again. I want to say that I've been out 11 years, and I don't think about Armageddon during the day, but when sometimes I'm afraid to go to sleep because it's so real. It's so real to me. My last dream, I was actually in Kingdom Hall, and they were throwing me out. and remember how they used to teach that if you were not in the ark, the congregation, you know what they used to teach, the fear mongering. Yep. Those are the types of dreams that I have. But can I touch on a point that I'd like to talk about? And this is another example why, even though I have these terrible nightmares, that the Watchtower has nothing to do with love. The God of the Watchtower is not a God of love. Okay, I work corporate security now, and I've been a first responder all my life. After I got this fellowship, I got into law enforcement. I became a certified incident response person, and so I'm on a team for people that, like, when we have active shootings, when we have, for example, we had a murder-suicide the other day. Okay, we go in and we deal with not only the families, but first responders. We deal with hospital staff. Well, anyway, that is what a lot of organizations do. A lot of first responders, I think, Nellie, you were in law enforcement. You probably know that there's what they call critical incident debriefings. When people are not doing well because of trauma that you see because of your job, there's a team that comes in and they help you. Well, guess what? The Watchtower never did for anybody. They never helped people dealing with whatever trauma it was. For example, let's just take one example. Let's just take families that their child, the announcement was that they were now disfellowshipped. Where was the critical incident team to help that family or to help that kid? Here's another example. The good, and I do believe there were some good elders. What about the elders that had to do dirty things for the Watchtower, making decisions to disfellowship before they would even meet with the person? I did that on many occasions. Where was the critical incident response team from New York or from some branch to say, hey, how are you men handling this? How is it helping? Are you okay, or are you having some mental issues? I mean, we could go on and on. How about the people that have had to deal with child sexual abuse? Where was the critical incident response team? And I'm talking about critical incident debriefings. And I hope I'm not rambling, but what I'm trying to say is there was no safety net for people that lived in this structured life that if you didn't do it the Watchtower way, you were dead. I'll stop there because I'm going to just ramble on. Hey, Joe.
I'd like to just interject for the audience, honey, who don't know who you are. Joe was in the organization for 40 years, and he 49. Was an elder. 49, excuse me. Okay, 49 years. 1 year short of 58. And then you were an elder for 12, 13 years, Joe?
Yeah, almost 14 years. Almost 14 years.
Right.
Just to let you know how this affects me. Just talking about this is making me sick.
Joe, you know who this is. What we try to do here is let everybody talk, because it is cathartic. Okay. I know I've gone to vet groups, for 10 years, and we talk about, combat and things that we experienced in Vietnam, especially seeing young kids get killed and blown up and all that stuff. But when you talk about it, you talk about it with people that really care, it makes it a little more tolerable than it did before. So, if you want to talk, Joe, we'd love to hear you, because I know, because we've talked privately, I know you have a lot of wonderful experiences, and we know that you're one of the good guy elders, and you got chewed up by the system that the Watchtower manufactured. So please, Joe, just continue to say whatever you need to say. Please.
Well, I guess what I want to say is there was no safety net for people that dealt with trauma. I mean, remember I talked about me being a kid, a child. I had so many issues, anxiety. I had all these things. There was nobody was the woman that brought me in the world. Was her husband going to help me? No, he beat the crap out of me. There was no one. And then when I finally, at 19 years of age, when they come knocking, I end up studying with, I never even knew what narcissistic behavior was. I studied with a narcissistic elder. And this was his formula. I'm not making this up. He said, you were raised in the Watchtower. You need to become a publisher. You need to get baptized. I was only baptized for a year, and this was his formula. You need to auxiliary pioneer 3 months out of the year. You need to average 20 hours. Boy, have things changed. And you need to go to every meeting so you can become a ministerial servant. The guy didn't even ask me if I wanted to do that. And this guy controlled every aspect of my life. My whole life was controlled. And then 11 years ago, I got the axe, right? I get shunned. And guess what? I've been a recluse for 11 years because I have no tribe other than the 6 screens, or, I tried to have a tribe when I was doing YouTube videos, but I have nobody. I have people that I work with, but they have their families. And let me tell you something. Here's a subject we could talk about someday. What about
in the quaint New England
men?
area?
What about men and women that come out of the Watchtower that are
tranquil facade of the JW community?
Oh, just keep
The
going.
murderer,
okay?
a prominent local podcaster named Rick Fearon, claimed to have found his wife's lifeless body in his studio. Her transsexual and mangled body from multiple surgeries slumped over his desk amidst the scattered papers and Jehovah Witness top secret documents. With no apparent signs of forced entry, the investigation quickly descended into a web of
subject that could be investigated in the future. Do you know how many lonely Jehovah's Witnesses there are?
Into the enigmatic past of Rick Fearon.
Do you know how many?
Labyrinth of secrets, including a BDSM fetish, sex trafficking, and homosexual butt sex.
Do you know how many?
Revelation, the mystery only deepened.
Men and women that have left the Watchtower that are single, that would love to just have a mate, that would just love to have somebody to be with. That's another subject that we could talk about. Let me tell you something. I've been single for 11 years.
Hey, Rick, I'm interested in Joe. Is he into sucking dick? I'll take your answer and my pants off the air.
Joe,
Man, these guys are sick.
Goodbye.
Sorry, Joe, for that, but these are drunken Bethelites that are coming in tonight. So go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry. It's just hard to keep these guys off. I'm gonna go ahead. All right, we're gonna just hold on. They're playing with our phone system here. Hold on, we'll be right back.
Welcome into the live 6 Screens conference calls. We thank you for joining in. To speak up and talk, press *6 on your telephone. When you are done talking, press *6 to mute yourself. Remember, when you are unmuted, your phone is a microphone and picks up on all noises in the background. We hope you enjoy the programs tonight. You will now be placed into the conference.
If you are the host, press star now. Guys, please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Thank you. There are 22 participants in the conference. Recording did not start because your storage is
Don't
full.
worry about the storage. We got to be
Please
recorded.
log in
Just
and
hold
delete
on.
recordings or purchase more storage from your account.
Yeah, but because I'm not in the organization, I have no. I guess I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm damaged goods, and I've actually dated an ex-witness, but I sabotaged it because I didn't. I'm afraid. I'm scared to death because my Watchtower wife wiped me out of $250,000. And so I'm just so damaged. I'm going to stop here because this will go on all night. I just want to let you know I'm damaged. I'm sick.
But you know what, honey? There is hope for you and others, Joe. You know, when you come on, like yourself coming on this show, you are helping so many people, Joe, that we probably will never see, but they're listening tonight. And their experience is very similar to yours. What I'd like to say is that there's hope, Joe. There's hope for all of us. We all need love. We all need family. We all need a sense of community. And that's one thing Watchtower somewhat gave us until we realized that their love was conditional and it really wasn't true, genuine love. But here now there's an opportunity to make a selection of true, genuine friends who love you from the bottom of our hearts. And I can tell you, that's very true of Rich and I. You know that. You know that, Joe. And you're certainly not listening. You know that very much. And our home is always open to you, and we've always told you that. We love you, and we can't wait to come and meet you in person. But the thing is, people need to be able to heal from these deep wounds that Watchtower has inflicted. Unfortunately, you were hit as a child, and that was very damaging. Okay, I'm not saying that you can't heal, because you can, Joe. You can still have a very beautiful life, meet somebody, fall in love. But honey, what you need to do is you need to work on yourself, on your own issues, and you need to heal. And there's hope for that. There's hope for that, Joe. There's hope for you. There's hope for, you know, my life was very similar to yours, Joe. It was all work, come home, pay bills. Work, come home, pay bills. That's all it was. California is very expensive to live. And, you know, you're always paying taxes up the yin-yang for everything. And it was expensive. Huh? Yeah.
Can I share one quick story with you? How do you, this is just one of thousands of stories, but how do you process this? Okay, I'll never forget, and this is something that I want to share. I was getting ready for high school, and the military came to the high school, and they were flipping the rifles. It was the drill team, from West Point, and what they were doing is trying to recruit young people for ROTC, and you know, you can get scholarships with all that. I wanted to be in that so bad. I went home, and I told my Veronica, the woman that brought me in the world, I said, please, can I at least join your ROTC? No, it's against Watchtower rules, policy, whatever you want to call it. The very next day, the man that got everybody in the Watchtower, the man that my uncle, the pedophile, I caught him playing with his, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get graphic. How do you process this? How do you process events like that where you are begging can I do something in school so I can be a part of something? And then the very people that say everything in the world is bad are doing everything in the world.
Right.
And see, that was my life. And I got so damn confused.
Right.
Make up your mind, Watchtower.
Right.
It's either bad or good. And my goodness, I got a bunch of pedophiles in my Watchtower family. And I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is, I've got so many demons and memories of things that really affect me. And I have a low self-esteem. Yeah, after I got this fellowship, I was in law enforcement for 3 years, firefighter for 5 years. I've been in the medical field. Now I work corporate security. Yeah, I've got to do some of those things. But you know what? If they would have left me alone and let me grow up like normal kids, I would have done that at a young age. And I probably would have been retired as a U.S. Marshal. I probably would have been retired as a captain from a police department. But I didn't get to follow that dream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They stole so much from, and I'm not, this is not about me. They have stole so much from so many people.
Well, it's very true, Joe. It's very, very true. I mean, you know, you have accomplished a lot, and, you know, you're very bright, you're very talented, and you actually have the ability to be able to save people's lives. You're a first responder, Joe. Not everybody can say that. But, you know, I know myself, when I was held back from going to college for 12 years, I thought, my God, I could have been a doctor by now, or, you know, it was 12 years. It was 12 years I had to try to catch up. I was working full time, going to school at night to get my degrees. And I felt the same way. I'm trying to catch up. But you know what, Joe? The thing is, you do the best that you can, because none of us can ever turn the clock back and say, you know, let's wipe the slate clean and let's go back from the time when we were born, or let's go back from the time when we were not affiliated with the witnesses. We can't do that, Joe. You know, we don't have that capacity to turn the hands of the clock back. But what we can do, Joe, so please listen to me, I'm saying this to you out of love, is our attitude. We have control over our attitude, Joe. There's a lot of things in life we do not have control over. In your case, you had parents that were JWs, your mom and your stepfather. You know, I wasn't born in, but still, I was starting to study at 16, got baptized at 17, and I was in till I was 28. So there were some major years right there of my youth. But what you can do is, it's your attitude, Joe. Each of us can look at life with the experiences that we've gone through, good or bad or ugly, probably all of the above, and be able to learn from that and gain strength from it and share that with other people. Because there are people all around the world right now, Joe, who are listening in, who maybe are just a new Bible study. Maybe they're contemplating getting baptized.
This is Ron Perlman from the UFC. Coming out of the closet is an incredibly courageous...
Not done. So the point is, and don't you interrupt me, Bethelites, and the point is that, you know, you have control over your life and your attitude, Joe, and you can help people at this point. And, you know, like God says, there's more
my heartfelt
in giving than in receiving. Okay, there's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving, Joe. And your life is not a total mess up. It's not, Joe. We're here for you. We are your family, and so many other people. And you have so much to offer to other people.
Embracing your true self is truly inspiring.
Well, thank you. You're not responsible for a lot of the external influences in your life. Satan runs the system. Satan certainly runs the Watchtower. And many people have had their lives destroyed. I had my life.
Embracing your identity open.
In 2 decades,
And, you know,
For greater acceptance and understanding.
Please be watching your videos.
So, anybody else?
Discovery, acceptance, and love.
Here.
Please give the
Just kind of not talk over that clone.
Okay. Joe?
Does anybody? Go ahead, Joe.
This is Apostle Baby Linda James, and I really want to talk to Joe.
Hi, Linda.
Joe, you are one of my favorite apostates. You are dual, okay? You are a gem. You are extremely rare. The kind of person that you are is extremely rare and valuable. I got the shit beat out of me too, as I was growing up. In the 5th grade, I was so happy that I got put into choir. I love to sing, okay? I'm not one of those join the army.
In the quaint New England area, a chill.
Please stop. Please don't interrupt. Please do not.
JW community.
So I was in the 5th grade. Came home, told my mother, guess what, I'm in choir. My mother said, I cannot be in choir. I had to march my little 5th grade butt to the front office the next day and take myself out of choir because it's against my religion. My mother used to beat the crap out of me, waking me up in the middle of the night, making sure I was ashamed. And this confusion you're talking about, I can really relate. It was like we grew up on tactical alert and confused all the time. And it was hell. It was hell. The thing is what happened is the organization made sure we could not develop our own identity. That's why we could not pursue our self-interest. Because then we would develop self-identity. And we could only grow as our identity in the organization. So put on the new personality and whatever. They only allowed us to grow there, and they kept us stunted for who we truly are. Okay? So now is our time to discover it and whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I used to go to karaoke because that's where I could sing. And that's what gives me, you know how people get a runner's high? Endorphins release in my head when I sing. Like, that's how much I enjoy, you know, things. So I know that you got shut down all the time. And when I get to hear you've been, you know, I could never be a first responder. Like, I'm too sissy Lala. Like, I admire that in you. It's not my gift, it's yours. And I love the fact that you've gone into it. This world would be a horrible place without you. You are so valuable to me, and I know to others. And I'm not blowing.
I just want to say I appreciate everybody, and I didn't.
You need to know that I value you, and you need to know that you're my favorite apostate. And I don't even think you know this. Every time I have a show on Saturday night at 9 o'clock, and that's my pitch. I'm Apostle Babe Linda James, your favorite apostate. And if I repeat it every week, I can brainwash everybody to believe me. And here I am telling you, you're my favorite. But you are, dude. You are, okay? I feel your pain, and I can understand. Maybe it's because you're crazy like me, because I've got my mental stuff too. And it's very hard to function in life with that. It's not.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
I wanted to say one quick thing. I know what you are going through, because I'm in a world of nightmares in my mind. And the closest thing I've come to relate to it is kidnapping. And if you look at what tactics kidnappers use to keep their victims from running, is brainwashing, hypnosis, and physical abuse. And I got all of that. I got every single bit of that. And you think about, okay, so if you went through kidnapping, what do those victims go through? And they go through, denial, impaired memory, shock, numbness, anxiety, guilt, depression, anger, and a sense of helplessness. And I have checked all of the above. So it's not something you're suffering from alone, and it's not something easy. Just because you know that other people are suffering from it, that doesn't always necessarily help. But maybe just knowing that people do care because they care about they're going through it too, so they have empathy because they're going through it too. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Linda.
Can I say one more thing, guys? I don't mind.
Yep, go ahead.
I really apologize that I went through this rant. I guess what I'm trying to explain, I guess you already know what I mean. I have this confusion, and it started when I was young, even to the point of leaving, and now I'm still out. I'm not confused as to whether the Watchtower is the so-called truth, but what I'm saying is they break you into pieces, and then you're just thrown out. You're thrown out, and you're damaged goods. And I know I've got a lot to work on. I just don't want anybody to think I went on a big rant, because I know many people go through this.
Right, that's true.
Right.
Well, you're not running, Joe. It's not, you're sharing a lot of great information.
A lot of people have benefited by what you just said. And you know, Joe, go ahead, brother.
Hey, Joe, you know I love you, man. You know I love you, and you dissed me down in Phoenix, Arizona. You were supposed to hang out with me. This is GG for GB. But you didn't, but I'll get you on the next one, you know. And you are a great storyteller, but you have, first of all, I have to tell you, you know I love you. And everything you said, the only difference between what you said and what other people are feeling and have experienced is just the names have changed. It's the same thing. It's just the names have changed. You know, you suffered over here and I suffered over here, but it's saying we all suffered with Watchtower. And some people can, the great majority of people that are willing to talk to you, hang out, listen to you, they're going to help you. But we were talking in the comment section how sometimes you need to go to a professional. And I know I've at times have hired a professional in my life. I went to like 3 different psychiatrists, and I just needed help. I just like, hey, I got this problem. I need help. And they didn't fix the problem. What they did is they just helped me identify this. Gilbert, this is your problem. Now you can go, buy books, you could do whatever, but they identified what the problem is. But also, Joe, what you're going to find out is that a lot of the answers to your questions are already in a song, in a movie, in literature, whatever. It's all the answers are already here. And you were trained by Watchtower to both be successful and also to be a loser. Watchtower trained us to be successful because we know the Bible stories and everything that you went through. I can list a whole bunch of Bible characters that felt the exact same way that you did, but they also set us up for failure at the same time. So I'll give you an example about how you could see in everyday life what could help you. Remember when we were kids, when we used to watch Star Wars, and then they would say, "Those Jedi mind tricks don't work on me." Watchtower is playing Jedi mind tricks on you, and your mind is sometimes overpowering you. The other side, the other Joe, and that phrase it may not help you, but that has helped me a lot in my life. So what I'm trying to say is you need to search and just look around you, and when you have conversations with people, you're gonna tune into something, and you're gonna say, "Oh my God, there's the answer. It was in that song." Or it was in that movie, or it was in that book, and you're going to find that the answer that you're looking for has always really been in front of you, and that's what helped me out when I was leaving Watchtower. I was like, oh my God, they really were playing Jedi mind tricks on me, and but that was just me. That may not help you, but I hope that helps you. And listen. I put my phone number out there all the time, and a lot of other people have too. So you should never feel bad about calling anybody. Call Connie Rich, call Dan. If we're busy, we're busy. But if we're not, we're going to take the phone call. Don't ever feel bad. Don't ever feel bad to pick up the phone and talk to anybody. Trust me. Because you know why? Because you're gonna have to do it too. If I spend 1 or 2 hours talking to you, you're going to have to do it to somebody else. And Connie said it. There's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. I think right now you're not in a position to give. You need to receive a little bit. But once you receive a lot of help from your friends, it's going to be your turn. Now the ball's in your court, and you're going to be able to help people. You're going to pay it forward. So I'm telling you, Joe, don't be afraid. And this talk about suicide, that's wrong and it's dangerous. So you really do need help. So I would just encourage you to seek a professional. Don't feel bad about it, and talk to good friends. And believe me, the answer. Remember that song, "The Answer, My Friend, is Blowing in the Wind." One day you're going to see something like, "Oh my God, this is me," and the answer was always in front of you.
Yeah,
that's what I've experienced.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll let you go.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Joe, real quick, this is Courtney from Boston. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to openly and honestly talk about, like, how the desperation and the loneliness. And I personally thank you for being so strong, because no matter how much we may not want to keep going, it seems like there's something small that keeps us from taking our life. There has to be some reason we're still here. You know, no matter how bad things get, there's some reason we're still alive. And there are many, many ways and many, many people, especially ones listening tonight, who really admire you. And you know, this is the first time I think that I've, heard you share, but you inspire me from giving into my passive suicidal ideations and giving me hope and giving me the bravery to reach out instead of being silent, because we're not alone. We may feel alone, but we're not. Number one, because God's always with us, but there are hundreds of people who are with you tonight, and just know that you're probably safer now after sharing the pain that you're in, because you're going to have so many people blowing up your phone checking on you. And I just want to say thank you for your courage, and my heart goes out to you.
Can I talk next?
Stay strong.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Joe? Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Joe, this is under the radar. This is Donna. We used to talk, I think, somewhere around 2014. Remember, we used to talk on the phone? Everybody, I just want you to know, talking about passing it forward, I used to talk to Joe when I first left the organization. And I remember when I was talking to him and he was thanking me for telling him my testimony. I said, testimony? Is that what it's called? Because I was so new. I was so fresh out, of the organization. I didn't even know that was called a testimony. I was just explaining what the heck was going on in my life and why I left or whatever. But Joe has been there to help so many people with his videos, and he helped me so much when I first left the organization. So I just want to put that out there, Joe, and say hi, and I'm here. And I don't know if you still have my number. I don't have yours anymore. But if you still have my number, give me a call, okay?
Thank you, Donna.
Yes, and I mean it. I'm not playing, okay?
And,
I mean it.
I want to say something. I want to get to like Gilbert said, I want to get to the point where I could pay it forward because so many people need help. You know, I don't want to be stuck like this. I want to be there to help people. So I appreciate you, Donna.
Yes, and you did. You helped me a lot, and you helped a lot of people a lot with your amazing videos. I love the one where you were playing yourself and you were talking on the phone. I can't remember the specifics, but you were like playing yourself in the same video. I remember you on the phone. That was so hilarious. I mean, you have such a gift and you don't realize it, but you've already been paying it forward in the past. So you were there for us, so we want to be there for you too, okay?
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd just like to piggyback on that just a bit.
Hey, Dick, we do it, Dick. We have a, I'm sorry, we have so many people calling in here tonight. I don't want to interrupt, but we have Pixie. Come on in, Pixie.
Hey, Joe. I have seen your comic work and the video you did that she mentioned, and it was wonderful. I had no idea you were that guy until 5 minutes ago. I want to say that I was born in also, and that most of us at one point or another have had those nightmares. I don't have them anymore, but I used to have them every night. And I think maybe if you get up in the morning and scribble some morning pages, Julia Cameron has a book called The Artist's Way. Just get a cheap notebook and scribble before you have your coffee, and then, you know, tear those pages up the following week, but do it every morning for a while. You're going to get all that stuff out. And it's, you know, therapy that costs $1 and a pen. And if you were doing first responder work, you're brave, you're on time, and you've got skills, man. And maybe you could do a little volunteer with the fire department or something and get some pals back. I really support what you've said tonight, and I think you're a really great guy. And just do some breath work and scribbling on some pages and throw those pages out every week, and I think you'll be stronger, and you're going to have new pals, and things are going to work for you.
Hello. Thank you so much.
Hey, Joe.
Hello.
Hey, Joe, this is Elaine from JW Escape on YouTube. I just wanted to tell you that you're just such a great guy, and you're fearfully and you're wonderfully made, and there's not another Joe out there like you. God knows the numbers of hairs on your head, and he knows everything that you're going through. And I wanted to tell you, I'm a born in as well, and my family has not spoken to me. It's been 35 years. And I made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I felt hopeless, and I felt a loneliness that was tangible. I mean, there were times in my life for years that there was nobody to call. This was before the internet. This was before YouTube. I didn't know any other Jehovah's Witnesses who had gotten out. I was in really, really dark places, and I was just a tiny little thing and a female with no education at the time. And you know what the thing is I survived, and God had me. He carried me through those dark, lonely times. As far as the nightmares, I had nightmares, but the worst ones were that it was the last day of the month, and I didn't have any time in, and that was, thank God, those were really the worst nightmares that I had. But we all had our own demons that we had to face, and loneliness. And the thing is that was Watchtower's design for us. They shamed us. They wanted to ruin us. But I was not going to let Watchtower ruin me. And I absolutely was not going to remain stuck in living in the land of defeat. So you know what? I conquered them. And the thing is, Joe, you have friends. You have people who absolutely love and adore you. And here's the thing. That's a fact. It's not a feeling. See, our feelings and our emotions, they can, I'm trying to think of the right word, they can confuse us. They can lie to us. But the fact of the matter is, you are loved and adored. And right now, we're so happy that you're calling in. We're so happy that we can help you because we love you. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope this gives you some hope that the thing is you can conquer this. You can overcome. And the point is, don't even think at this point about you helping other people at this point in your life. Don't carry, yes, you don't misunderstand. You are helping by being on here. But as far as you need to take care of yourself right now, and don't carry the burden around, because I remember one time you had said, maybe it was a couple of years ago, that you didn't want to make your videos anymore because people were calling you and asking you to help them when you really needed to help yourself. And that was brilliant of you to recognize that. And that was a great thing for you to do. So my point is, don't carry the burden around of saying, okay, you know what, I really need to try to help others. You right now take care of yourself. And at this moment, calling in is taking care of yourself, and we're very happy you're doing that. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe. My name's Debbie Moore, and I am in the western part of Nebraska, and I hear you're in Colorado. Where are you at in Colorado?
I'm 70 miles east of Denver.
Well, you're not that far from. I'm in North Platte, Nebraska. You know where that's at?
Yeah.
Yeah. You said you don't have a tribe. My tribe is just the people on here. And this is my tribe. This is my family. I was a witness for 45 plus years also. I was born in, and I haven't been able to find any ex-Jehovah's Witnesses anywhere in Nebraska. And I wouldn't mind having you part of my tribe too. We're not that far apart. I can't drive because I'm in a wheelchair. I don't have a vehicle. But sometimes, if you got a day off or something, come on over. We'll go out and have some. Well, I don't drink coffee, but we can go out and have a Coca-Cola or something. But I just want to let you know that you're not that. You're probably the closest distance of anybody, but I know. And I don't really know you either. But if we both were I was going to say in the truth, we were both witnesses that long. I've had a lot of trauma also, but we probably have a lot to talk about. And I just want to let you know that you got a friend in me.
I appreciate that. Appreciate everybody.
Well, we appreciate you too, Joe. And you are helping a lot of people coming on here, because sometimes it takes more strength and more courage to let yourself be vulnerable with other people. Walking away from the organization takes a lot of guts. It really does. And with you having been an elder and what you've been through, being an elder by itself is traumatic. My dad was an elder. I've seen him almost kill himself over like a committee matter where they voted to disfellowship a young teenage girl before, and he was on that committee, and he didn't want to go along with her being disfellowship because it was a older pioneer brother, and she was like 14 years old, and she went and confided in the brothers. And what was sad is she had confided in me, and I told her to go talk to the brothers. And oh my God, the brother, the pioneer brother, said he did not try to have sex with her, and he did. He had an affair with her, and she felt like she had no control, but he took control. And then my dad was really close to her also, because she was like my daughter and like his granddaughter, and he was on that committee. And when he came home from that, he cried and cried and cried. He was so devastated. And I just remember him saying it was so wrong that they did that to her. And I really felt bad because I'm the one that encouraged her to go tell the brothers. And it was really, really heartbreaking for her, for me, for my dad, for both families. And I did not like that Pioneer brother ever again, because I just thought that was so dirty that he would do that to her. But that's what I'm saying, being an elder and having to make, like you said, those kind of decisions, how does that affect you? Absolutely, it's hard for an elder. It was hard for you. I mean, it's a bad organization to be part of, and we didn't know that, or we wouldn't have stayed in it as long as we did. And I was baptized in 1975 too. I was 14, and I thought I was doing something great, and I went on to Pioneer and everything. My parents took me out of school, and I had scholarships to go to Vanderbilt University in Tennessee way back then. That was a long time ago. Not that long ago, but everybody else thinks I'm old. I don't. But anyway, back then it was hard. I believed that Armageddon was coming in October 1975, just like Dick said a minute ago. They told that to us from the platform, and it was a hard road to hoe. Once we learned the truth about the truth. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know I'm not that far away from you. I don't have a tribe. Yeah.
It's Angela and Dan. We figured it out. It's about an hour and a half-ish from where he's at to your house.
Really?
Yeah, we used to live in Brighton, Colorado, pretty close to him. Okay. So an hour and a half drive, Joe. You can go, and by the way, up I-80, right? I-80. And also, Debbie is a really great cook, so she'll probably give you good food if you just twist her arm a little bit.
Right.
So anyway, I think that this whole thing about trying to find your group, trying to find your friends that you kind of at a regular round of keeping in touch with, it'll make you feel like you got a family. You might have to even kind of do it in your community if you can find some sort of a group that gets together that meets and just start making friends with the world, because that's the scary thing, is making friends with people outside of the organization, because you've been taught that they're of the world and all that. But if you just push through that and try to open up to people in the world, because you're going to find that they're really quite wonderful. And not just that, they don't have so many mind baggage, I guess you'd say, and they're able to be a little bit more open, and it'll rub off on you. Being open and sharing your emotions and your feelings are really, really a key. And I think somebody else suggesting that you write diary your feelings, and like when I write my diary, I feel like when I do it, I've been bad on it the last few years, but when I do it though, I feel like I'm letting the stuff out, and then somehow I feel like God's talking to me back, and it's kind of weird. But I don't know if some people have that experience, I know, but you just may very well have that experience too, where you write it out. It's like putting your burdens before God, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get answers. They just come to you. And sometimes I'll even write it down, what I had the thought that came in my mind, and it's really crazy awesome, because I kind of realized a long time ago that God is the only one who really fills me up with feeling safe and comforted, and He gets me, kind of a thing. But unfortunately, because we've been taught Jehovah's mad at all of us for some reason or the other, whatever it is, then we close down. But if you could try to open up again, just try to write down your emotions and feelings and see what thoughts come, and
and maybe realize that that's coming from, really, I'm just going to say it's from within you, because I believe the Holy Spirit lives within us. And so you get direction, and no one else can make you feel that comforted on the outside. It's on the inside, but I don't know, brave, I guess you'd say, to open back up to a God you've always been taught is mean, mad, and always mad, and you can never please him is hard, I know, but maybe give it a try. Just throwing it out there. But anyway, Joe, I'm really glad you're sharing too, and I hope that you find your wonderful core group of friends and that you start to feel good and safe. But honestly, I think that, truthfully, for me anyway, God is the only one who ever really can make me feel really safe. And so maybe try to be brave and cultivate that a little bit more than you have so far. So anyway, that's my suggestion. Not preaching, just a suggestion.
No, that I appreciate that.
About that.
Go ahead, Joe. Say what you wanted to say. Then we're gonna.
I just wanted to say one thing. I wanted to thank everybody for, sending your love and helping me, and I'm going to get through this. And I just want to tell you that I'm going to have I'm going to have to hang up, because I got to get up for work at 5 a.m. I work a 12-hour shift tomorrow. So anyway, I'm so grateful for everybody, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Bless
you.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, for coming on. Go ahead, 714. What do you have to say, 714?
Oh, hi, Rick. It's Nadine. I just wanted to, I guess Joe hung up, but I was just going to tell Joe that if, I would talk to him if he wanted to talk sometimes. I'm a pretty good listener, and I totally understand where he's coming from. I know about this organization, been around it all my life, and it just makes me sad to hear that. And I really did enjoy his videos. I've listened to all of Joe's videos, and he's a really good storyteller, and I could follow his stories. And so if he ever wants to talk to me, I will talk to him.
And I didn't hang up yet. I heard you. So Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And
hey, what's the name of your channel?
I don't have a channel anymore. I don't have a.
I did enjoy it.
I don't have a channel anymore. I took it down and I can't retrieve it. I wish I could, because I had so many videos, but yeah.
Yeah, Joe and Fran have my phone number. Do you have Joe and Fran's phone number?
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to get that from you.
Okay.
That way.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm a pretty good listener. All my friends call me and talk to me and tell me their stuff, and
yeah. And I think one last thing before I think that's something that a lot of ex-witnesses need. They just need a listening ear, somebody to, because they could help people process what we're going through.
Exactly. And and I could even share some of my things that I've gone through if you wanted to. Yeah,
that would be great. Okay, I appreciate that.
I'm a pretty good listener, so.
Okay.
And,
well, thank you.
I like talking to people, so it's like a win-win.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and good night, everybody. God bless.
Okay.
Good night. We love you. Well, there you have it. There's Joe, a really good guy, and maybe he's still listening to the program. When Gilbert was on earlier, he was talking about the girly men that are the governing body. Joe's just the opposite. He's a former fireman, cop, marshal, first responder. He's a man's man, and he got really, really screwed up with this Watchtower theology and all the broken promises that were made, and boy, did they treat him dirty. My goodness. And he's still suffering, but He's a member of the Watchtower. He's a member of the Watchtower. He's a member of the Six Screens family, and we're going to be around to help him. And down the road, he'll be helping other people. All right. So our second phase here is cognizant dissonance. What does that mean? Well, the definition is it's mental discomfort in holding to two conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes. People tend to seek consistency in their attitudes and their perceptions. So conflict causes unpleasant feelings of uneasiness and discomfort. Cognizant dissonance. Well, it kind of starts, I just give you some examples of cognizant dissonance. We all know that 1975 definitely was going to bring Armageddon. We heard that from the governing body for years, since I think 66, when the Truth Book came out. And we all believed it, and we stayed in there. And then 1975 came and went, nothing happened. Well, you believe that everything comes from Jehovah God to the anointed to the remnant. Now, from Jehovah God to the anointed and then to the governing body, and they send it out to the congregations through the elders and the Watchtower and the like. You find out that 1975 came and went, and it wasn't true, but they still call their cult the truth. Another example of cognizant dissonance is the blood issue. At one time, if you took a blood transfusion, you were disfellowshipped. There's no two ways about it. Then they got a lot of lawsuits against them. So now they come up with fractions. And then after that, it became a matter of conscience. So you wouldn't be disfellowshipped. It's just cognizant dissonance. You believe one thing, and then they come around and tell you something else. They disguise it as new light. But it isn't new light. It's just that they got sued a lot. The faithful and discreet slave used to be the anointed in many congregations throughout the world. Now it's only the governing body, just those eight clowns that are on that, 8 liars would be more appropriate, on the governing body. They are the discreet, faithful slave. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Another cognizant dissonance is you hear that Jehovah's Witnesses can't go in the military, can't salute the flag, can't vote. In Russell's time, that was allowed. It was even encouraged to go into the military. At Bethel in New York, they had a statue of Abraham Lincoln with 2 American flags off the side of it. Of course, Rutherford changed all that. And then, of course, with the cross, at one time, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jesus died on a cross. Then Rutherford comes in and, no, it's a torture stake. This is what I'm getting at. They teach one thing, and they say it's the truth. Then they teach something else. And if anywhere along the line you disagree with them or you say that they're wrong, if you can prove they're wrong, they'll call it new light. If you know they're wrong and you tell them, you'll be put on apostate watch, probably have your privileges taken away or disfellowshipped. And they would say, well, if you disagree with the Watchtower, then that's brazen conduct and you can be disfellowshipped for that. So anyway, at one time, if a person was disfellowshipped way back, maybe 2 decades ago or so, maybe 3 or 4, some elders would come visit you every once in a while to see if they couldn't get you to come back in the truth or back in the cult. And but now they don't do that at all. I've been disfellowshipped since 1990, so it's 34 years. No, and I lived in Lowell most of the time, most of my life. Nobody ever came to the door. Nobody ever called me. When I lost my wife, my kids, my house, the whole bit, nobody ever called and said, look, it's a rough time for you, Rich, but, just hang in there and pray to Jehovah. Nothing. I got nothing. So when Dan was on just a few moments ago, I really related to that. When you're out of that organization, you're out, and nobody wants to have anything to do with you unless you want to crawl back. But that's really not my point here. We just wanted people to know what cognitive dissonance is. It's the flip-flopping of their theology throughout the years. And you believe it's the truth, then you tell, well, it's really not the truth. There's new light. New light is, you'll never find new light in the Bible. It's a scam. If you go ahead, brother.
Yeah, Rick. Yeah, you want to talk about cognitive dissonance? In 1991, I just got out of high school. About 2 years after high school, and I went to Czechoslovakia International Convention, and it was called the Lovers of Freedom. And this is the point I try to make about how Watchtower set you up for success, and they also set you up for failure. So the way I look at life is that, if you do believe in good and evil, if you believe that there's a God and there's a Satan, well, then you went to church and you learned all of the things about God, but Satan also set the traps. And so when the gun is shot and now it's time to run and the race has begun, some people fall flat on their face. And you're like, hey, what happened to 20, 30 years of training? And so and this happens a lot of times with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. They learn the truth about the truth and they go, oh, what do I do now? Well, you're supposed to do what you've been trained for. But Satan has set a lot of traps. And a lot of that explains why a lot of times some of our ex-Jehovah's Witness brothers and sisters stumble when they get out. But here's the point, going back to cognitive dissonance. It basically boils down to let your yes be yes, your no be no. Do you love the truth or do you do not love the truth? And it goes back to that when I was 21 years old, I was 20 years old and I was at that convention and I actually paid attention. And they talked about lovers of freedom. And I knew at a very young age, I mean, here I am still a teenager, my early, 20 years old. And I understood that you have to love the truth. You have to love freedom. You have to actually love it. And a lot of people would just go to the assemblies because you just go to the assembly. But very few people actually listen and get prepared. So what happens with cognitive dissonance with our brothers and the Jehovah's Witnesses is they've been trained, they've been told, the teacher gave them the homework assignment, the Watchtower article that talked about loving truth, loving freedom. But when rubber hit the road, when the moment counted, they weren't ready. And so what we're finding out is a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk because they never knew how to love freedom, how to love truth. And again, like I said earlier, this is what's happening with the Cat Williams video that hit 50 million views. Carrie Lake, when she just did her video where they're trying to bribe her. There's some people that just love the truth and they hate the lie. Unfortunately, a lot of our Jehovah's Witness brothers, not our Jehovah's Witness brothers, they love the truth. They fall into the trap of cognitive dissonance. It's a trap because they give lip service to loving the truth. But when the rubber hits the road and the elder is a pedophile, they stumble. So that's why you have to love yes, yes, no, no. Your yes is yes, your no is no, because anything outside of that is from the wicked one. And that's what I've learned as a young man. You always have to love the truth. You just have to love it. You have to hate the lie. And people are going to hate you for that. If you adopt that kind of attitude, a lot of people are going to hate you for it. They hated Jesus because he was like that. But it's unfortunately that we get, now we're 50, 60 years old, and you're like, I wish I learned this when I was younger. Yeah, but that goes to my thing of cognitive dissonance. At the end of the day, if you love the truth, you will not fall for the trap of cognitive dissonance. You know, you just got to love the truth.
Joe, that is so well said. I really appreciate you telling that to the audience.
Yeah, Gilbert, you brought up a great point with regards to that, because, you know, the organization's always saying it's the truth, it's the truth, it's the truth, you know, which is just pounded into the brain. But the thing is, you're absolutely right. You know, that's what Jesus had to face. He truly loved truth and he hated evil.
Lies. Yeah.
He hated the light, he hated evil. And it's so easy for someone to put on like a showy display. I don't necessarily mean that one's means life, but just, you know, put on the show, you know, dress the part, look the part, sort of act the part when you're at the Kingdom Hall. And then when you're at work or you're away from the JWs, you know, there's a different kind of behavior there. And yeah, that's cognitive dissonance. People have to, I mean, I've always said, if you have a choice between, and this is where you really have to analyze this. If you see what somebody is saying, if you listen to what someone is saying versus what they're doing, which one of the two would have more of an impact? Well, it has to be their actions. It has to be their behavior. The reason for that is because people can say whatever they want to say. They can lie. They can omit information, which is a lie, a form of lying. But just watch a person's behavior. When you watch someone's behavior, and if it's contrary to their speech, that's who they really are. And the reason why I say that is because your actions do not lie. It shows who your character is. And you do see a lot of witnesses. You see a lot of witnesses. I personally didn't. But at the end I did. I saw an elder family, the hypocrisy, and it really woke me up. But the thing is, you know, when you talk about the elders' behaviors or anyone else in the congregation or the pedophiles, you know, they love I'm talking about the pedophiles now. They love evil. They love raping children. Yet they'll go to the Kingdom Hall dressed in their suits, you know, giving talks like they're so pious and self-righteous, but then yet they're so full of evil. They don't love truth and justice. They don't.
Yeah. How about this one, Connie? The same thing with Watchtower. Let's follow this one. Brothers, we're going to sell JEHOVAH'S house, and it's going to go up for sale. And then Connie and Rich raise up their hand and says, but we took out a 20-year loan, and if we took out a loan, then that property belongs to us. So I move that we keep the money, and we take that money to the next congregation we go to. See, you're talking the truth. You love the truth, that you took out a loan, it's your property, and the money should stay with you. But Watchtower say, no, we're going to keep the money. So you see, that's where the cognitive dissonance is, because they don't want to hear that. But you're like, hold on, we took out a loan. If Wells Fargo did this, if Bank of America did this, we would take them to court. But they don't want to hear that because they do not love truth.
Right.
And you have to love truth. You have to love truth more than your husband and wife. You have to. That's why Jesus says you have to love God more. Because if you love truth, that's why Jesus says you have to love him more. He's the truth. If you love truth more, you'll always do right to your wife. If you love truth more, you'll always do right to your husband.
Right. Hey, well, and Watchtower always has that thing like what happened in Rich's case, where those witnesses borrowed $40,000 from him, and then yet they never paid him, and they were directly related to him through his family, through his wife's side of the family. That, you know, he had 2 mortgages going on. He had a wife and 2 kids. He was about ready to lose his home, and everyone was going to be out on the street, but yet the elders in the circuit over would have nothing to do with helping him. And this is the point I'm trying to make. Had he been able to just take them to court, then the issue would have been resolved. But in the organization, they have an answer for everything. And the answer they had, well, you cannot take your brother to court. And if you do, as a ministerial servant, you will lose your privileges. So there is no justice, Gilbert. There is no justice. It's all about rules and regulations. And I think the average JW doesn't really realize this until they come across these situations in their own life. It's like, holy cow, you know, what in the heck is going on? I mean, where is the justice in this organization? There isn't. And like you say, what about the brothers and sisters paying off the mortgage on the Kingdom Hall? Mm-hmm. Well, then one just zooms in and says, well, thank you. You know, now we have our name on the deed. And this is what happened down in, remember, Menlo Park, California. And that wasn't where I lived. So the average person doesn't know that these things go on until they start doing their research.
So was your mental health affected by Watchtower? That's the title of your show. Was your mental health affected by Watchtower? Yes, right. Because you love the lie more than you love the truth. And because of that, you fell into the trap called cognitive dissonance. That's the trap, like the bear claw. It's called cognitive dissonance. And you step on it. And the only way to get out of it is look, you got to look at like an Alcoholic Anonymous, right? You got to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to say, I love, and just say it. I love the lie. I love to be lied to. I love to be lied to. But once you admit it, once you admit that you love being lying, I'll let you go right now. But once you admit that you love the lie and you see the danger, you can start fixing your problems. But a lot of our Jehovah's Witness brothers and sisters don't want to admit that they love the lie. I have admitted it. I've admitted that I love the lie. And now I want to be perfect. I want to learn to hate the lie. But I can't hate the lie if I tell myself I never did love the lie. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. It does make a lot of sense.
All right, go ahead. Go.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead. I guess I just want to say that, I don't believe that we always know that we're being lied to. And like for me, I had a situation where my ex was taking a walk with me after we split up. And he was saying, well, Angela, I love you. Now here's the thing. My person in my 12-step group, who was my, what do you call those things? Your accountability partner. She told me, Angela, go home, put your refrigerator. Actions speak louder than words. So, and she also had me write something else too, but I put that one on my refrigerator and I was to look at it every single day. And then my ex and I got together over at the apartment of the woman he was having the affair with. And he took a walk around the big park there by her house. And he said, well, Angela, I love you, don't you? And I started to say, oh yeah. And all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute. No, actions speak louder than words. And so I said, actually, no, I don't know that. And he was so mad. But, I had to begin to realize that it is the actions, not the words, that I had to go by. And so, I lived in a lie a very long time. But it's just because of my brainwashing that I didn't see the forest from the trees, because I was taught these certain ways that caused me not to look at the things that were right in my face. But once I got help and encouragement to see things for the way that you're seeing them, not just going by the words that are being told to you, then I began to see. And, it's like when you do, and it's one thing is true is that when you repent, common sense begins to come back to you bit by bit, because what I experienced is that when I went into the lie, which is the cult that I was in with my ex, I began to lose my knowledge of scripture bit by bit. My common sense was going out the door. Everything that I had gained was beginning to be taken from me. And I saw that. And I didn't understand what was happening until God stepped in finally, and he did step in. But, you lose it slowly, ever so slowly. And then you have to come to the point of where the Holy Spirit is so sweet and let you know that you're, thank God, that's what happened to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's happening? What's happened to me? And so I repented. And then I began slowly to see the truth bit by bit. And my common sense began to come back to me. But it took time. It's kind of like when you get sick, very, 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 very sick, it takes a while to come back from it. Well, that's the way it is in spirituality when you've gone down the wrong road. But God never let go of me. He let me go down the prodigal son journey and get myself in all kinds of trouble and believe the lie. He let me. But then, the Holy Spirit, the Bible says is that the work that God began in us, he will be faithful to complete it. And I believe God on that one. And so sure enough, the Holy Spirit came to me and let me know that I was messed and I was on the wrong road. I was ever so grateful that it was a shock to beyond shock for me. But I started to slowly. It took me a year really to fully realize it. But that's what I meant by slow coming back. But was that I wanted the lie? No, I didn't want the lie. I was simply tricked. So for that reason, I just want to say that's not how I experienced it. And I don't think anyone should feel guilt because they bought the lie. We just do sometimes. And especially if we're born and raised, we don't see any other way.
Yeah, sometimes, honey, it's very, very subtle. I was going to say, it's very, very subtle. I was going to say, there's several triggers. I was doing some research for this topic, and there's like 12 triggers of that cause mental illness among Jehovah's Witnesses. It's very interesting. One of them is basically the repeated change of doctrine. Rich has talked about that. The flip-flops. Watchtower has, through the years, a lot of flip-flops. One example, once again, was 1914, and how this generation will by no means pass away until till the end comes. Well, I came in early 70s because I was a teenager at the time. My mom was studying, and 1975 was just around the corner. And, that's passed. I mean, now we're in 2024. But Watchtower now, in order to cover their teachings, now it's overlapping generations. Okay, these are just a few of the examples. The 144,000 was going to be decreasing because as time went on from 1914 on, that generation, fewer and fewer of the anointed class were going to be alive. That was my mom. My parents were born in that generation, turn of the century. And then I noticed that Watchtower, I disassociated myself in 83. I could tell the late 70s, early 80s, Watchtower was changing their spin on the 144,000. And now it was having your total allegiance and obedience to the governing body members. Well, I came out of Catholicism. So, I was very familiar with worshiping the Pope and all the saints and all that sort of stuff. And when I got baptized as a witness, it was in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, things were changing. Things were changing late 70s, early 80s, that now everyone needed to be loyal and obedient to the governing body. And that was something that really woke me up. Another thing that is a trigger for a lot of JWs, the subject of porneia, their definition. Well, generally, the average rank and file, they know what that's all about, okay? But unless they're privy to the elders' book, the flock book, yeah, which is supposed to be so private, it's not because it's online and everybody most likely has a copy to it. Now, kiddie porn is something that's just like a little slap on the wrist. It's no big deal. And that, to me, is extremely alarming because, it shows how prevalent it is. Kiddie porn is pornography with children, okay? So it just says a lot about this organization. That's one thing that has triggered a lot of mental illness among the JWs. The blood issue, at one time you couldn't take any blood, then it changed to blood fractions. Okay, so just these few points that I have just brought up, the flip-flops, 1914, overlapping generations, 144,000 versus the governing body, porneia definition, and the blood issue. Just these topics alone here have caused so much mental illness among Jehovah's Witnesses. Many people have died because of the blood issue, and many marriages have broken up. And as a result, many people have been totally disillusioned by God. These factors, if you have a child, like say, for example, you have, I was going to say if you had one spouse that's a JW and the other one's not, and then you have a child that, has to go into the hospital and there's a blood issue, they need to have a blood transfusion, that can create a big havoc in the marriage. But even if you had both were witnesses, just because they're a baptized witness, not everybody is in agreement in terms of not giving their child a blood transfusion. I mean, we've heard of stories like that here on the 6 screens. But the point is that Watchtowers, call it doctrines, I call them policies. It's their spin on their Bible. To me, that's a policy. That's not a doctrine. But it causes a lot of death and a lot of broken marriages in this organization. Joe's an example. We absolutely love Joe. But there's many other people that have the scars. My husband, the same thing as well, with regards to how Watchtower gets involved right in the middle of a marriage, and the elders feel like they have a right to dictate what's going on. But just a few other thoughts I'd like to say. What are some other issues that have been triggers for JWs to have mental illness? Well, we know there's a lot of prohibitions. So let's hit the big ones. The big ones is higher education is not encouraged. In fact, it's even discouraged. It's even actually forbidden. Okay, which means people have their opportunity for a better life financially, is minimal. It's very, very minimal. And the other thing, your career choices. You're pretty limited. You're quite limited on what you can do if you don't have a lot of skills and education, especially today. And even if you had brothers that were working in the military, that was even discouraged. Then you find out the hypocrisy down the road that Watchtower has stocks involved in that. So there's a big hypocrisy there. Mustaches, beards, women not being able to wear pantsuits. That's one issue. Then you have the immense social pressure among JWs. Okay, this one I'd like to really emphasize. Everybody has to be the same. It's like everybody's, a robot. Everybody's a drone. Everyone's got to go door to door for the preaching. All the meetings you have to attend. It's not optional. And you have to comment at the meetings. God gave each of us gifts and talents to be able to use in our lives, that we can feel very good about ourselves and be able to share those talents and gifts with other people to actually make the world a better place. And yet Watchtower strips all that individualism among every single one. I remember back in the 70s, there was at the Circuit Assembly, there was a brother and sister. They were professional ice skaters. And they were very, very good. And yet they both became witnesses. So, of course, they're examples at the Circuit Assembly that they gave up their professional ice skating, to be pioneers. So everybody is totally stripped of any opportunity for personal growth. And that's extremely sad. Then just a couple of other thoughts I'd like to say is there's absolute submission to this organization, which is Dr. Bergman addressed it this way. He said, Dr. Jerry Bergman in his book, he said it's known as uniformity authoritarianism. So it's just a tight grip that you have to be completely submissive to this organization. And if you don't, then, there's going to be serious consequences. And it's like on Anne Marie's first show tonight, talking about the Third Reich, Watchtower is very much like during the time of Hitler. So the prophetic failures, personal goals, people don't have an opportunity to reach personal goals. There's no personal fulfillment in your life whatsoever. And there's pressure. There's pressure from the outside, holidays, weddings, funerals. I had family members that were not, my mom studied, but no one in my family were witnesses. So when it came Christmas time, I hated Christmas. Everybody came over, there was a tree, exchanging of gifts, and I was sitting there like a dunk off and everybody's celebrating, and it was extremely uncomfortable. So just a couple of other thoughts. Another thing that can cause mental illness among JWs, the gossiping. We know what that's all about. A lot of elderettes, that's all they did is gossiped about different ones in the congregation. You have brothers looking for status in the congregation. There's jealousy, there's envy, even among the elders. Joe didn't talk about that tonight, but he has said that before. There were elders that got in physical fights that late at night after the meetings, and the average JW never knew that, but that does happen. There is physical fights among the elders at times, and swearing and profanity. So anyway, the disfellowshipping and the disassociation. Okay, these are big ones that the Watchtower has created in their organization to cause so much mental illness among Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's cruel, it's unusual, it's emotional torture, it's alienation, it's abandonment, and it's division. And yet, you know, when you look at the scriptures, see, there's no love. There's absolutely no love in this organization. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 3 said, in the last days, there would be no natural affection. Well, that's definitely Watchtower. And when they isolate you from your own personal family, it's extremely painful. Many of us have been through that, but there is hope on the other end of it. And then you get to really find, like, 6 Screens of the Watchtower, genuine friends who truly love you. And anyway, those are basically the points that I wanted to bring out tonight. That Watchtower.
Sorry. Can I add? Can I add when you're all done? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say, on the topic of isolation, Watchtower has a tendency, it's like we versus they. You know, we're Jehovah's Witnesses versus the world, or we're the true religion versus Christendom. When it comes to social relationships, you don't associate with anybody in the world, nobody. And you don't read any literature except Watchtower literature. You're only exposed to the one view because everything outside is of Satan's world. So that's just really what I wanted to present tonight. I know it's a lot, but Jerry Bergman does have his book. It was published in 1992. And let's see, let me get the name of it again. It's called Jehovah's Witnesses and the Problem of Mental Illness. And apparently he had been on the show, I think Rich said, like maybe about 10 years ago. He has his PhD. He was a JW for about 30 years, became an elder, is my understanding. And then he went to college and he got his PhD, probably in clinical psychology, and, you know, has tried to help a lot of people. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share tonight.
So is it time to add a little something, Connie? I wanted to bring something up about one of the other things that I see as a real problem, and that's been the Jehovah's Witnesses stand against just all kinds of things that have to do with sex and your body and masturbation and things like that. And, you know, even some of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I even heard it tonight, saying things like, I heard people saying that, like, if a man sees a woman's feet and he thinks that, you know, turned on by their feet and all that they're a pervert. I'm like, no, that to me is loading people up with guilt and shame. I mean, my own husband, Dan, loves women's feet. And why do women put nail polish on their feet? And why do they get pedicures and, you know, on their feet so that men will see their feet? Because they know men like feet. They know that men like legs. They know that men, they wear skirts so that men will notice their skirts. They put makeup on. There's reasons why us women do that, because we know that makes our men excited, and we want to make them excited. And so we're now going to be accused then of being harlot whores by these men who say these kinds of things, because we are the ones that are dressed like this and got our nails done so that we could turn men on, turn my husband on. So I'm a whore and a slut and whatever else they think, because I entice them to be sinners. And I don't see it that way. I see that God made it to be that women are soft and sexy and they're turned on by God only knows what. Some men like boobs, some men like rear ends, some like the toes, the feet. It's all of the above. I don't see anything wrong with any of that, nor do I see anything really wrong with masturbation, for that matter. It's natural. God made us that way, and they have turned this into, you know, calling it pedophilia and all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. You know, saying that if a man goes down on a woman or vice versa, then they're gay or whatever it is, they're homosexuals. I mean, what kind of thinking is this? This is absolutely nutty, insane, and crazy, and it makes people mentally ill. And to me, they should go to jail just for these teachings. They should go to jail for it. They should be imprisoned. just for this because it's made people so crazy that they kill themselves over it. So it infuriates me. I had the same in Worldwide Church of God. You know, my mom went bedroom where I'll take a nap and she thinks I'm playing with myself. So I get this big lecture about don't touch myself and it's a sin and all this kind of stuff. Like, for crying out loud. As a little, 5-year-old, God only knows what I don't think I was doing anything wrong, but I had to feel guilty about my body all of a sudden. And not what he was talking about. Anyway, that's all I got.
Well, I was going to say, honey, a lot of times people who are locked up in psychiatric wards, it's because of a lot of religious trauma, the teaching. And it's really, really sad. And Watchtower is so obsessed with sex, it's unbelievable. They pervert everything, even things that are natural and wonderful. They have to pervert it. It says a lot about the leadership of this organization. And you've got to really have your head screwed on right to be able to function and come out of that organization without going into the psych ward for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Could I share a thought, guys?
Please do.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you were talking about cognitive dissonance, I was thinking about, your bullshit meter, like we all have a bullshit meter, right? We know when we're being bullshitted. And Watchtower are bullshitters, right? But Watchtower tells you to turn off your bullshit meter. They tell you to turn off your heart. They tell you to turn off your thinking. We've got the connection between you and Jehovah. We don't want you to listen to anything interior. Yeah, you know what I mean? And here's the thing, guys. Jesus said the letter presented, the way the Watchtower presents the letter, kills. Kills.
Letter kills.
The letter kills. The way you're using the word of God kills. And I'm like, holy shit. So, I sit back today, and I listen to a lot of different religious stuff on the radio and stuff. And I see a lot of them doing it, using the Bible. And you've said it before, Constance, as a weapon against the people. And I can't take it. I'm like, but I just think, what happens is, here's what happens eventually. Eventually the bullshit gets too deep, Like I remember when the generation prophecy was happening in the late 80s. And I remember asking the brother innocently, one of my good friends, we drank together. We had a good time. We had pizzas. We were doing carpet. We were building quick builds. And I said, hey, Bill, I said, laughingly, jokingly, I think I might have had a jack. And I said, Bill, did we pass up a prophecy or something? Did something happen? And he was standing next to another elder, and he looked at me like I was the devil. I don't know what the look was, honestly. All I know is I wanted to beat his ass. I wanted to say, don't you look at me, motherfucker, like that. What's that look for? What are you looking at me for like that? I went, what the hell's going on? I had no idea what was going on. My bullshit meter wasn't shut down because I had been preaching. I had been preaching generation prophecy, 70 years, 1914. The end's going to come. This generation will by no means pass away till all this bullshit occurs, including the great fucking tribulation, right? And so when they looked at me, I was like, what the fuck are you looking at? Are you guys pussyfied? What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? That's when I saw that, what you're talking about, Rich, cognitive dissonance, like, oh my God. I mean, it's called compartmentalization. When you tell somebody, when you get screwed in a deal, when you make a deal and you do an investment and you get screwed and the man looking at you go, you didn't get screwed. Just hang in there another year. You won't get screwed. And the deal takes another fall, right? The generation, the overlapping, 75. And the deal keeps falling apart. Sooner or later, hopefully you wake up and you say, I've been screwed. I've been screwed. And that's what's happened to us with Watchtower. We've been screwed. But, we don't have to stay screwed or we don't have to turn victim. But I think eventually, unless you're like Gilbert says, you just love the lie more than truth. And the Bible says there's those two that prefer falsehood over truth. And so, I don't know. I was really surprised when I seen that cognitive dissonance. I don't think I I think I experienced it just for a little bit in 75 when I watched my dad get all depressed when after 75 happened, because I really wasn't. I was born into the witnesses, but I really wasn't in till it was later in the 70s when I got baptized. But I didn't know really. All I knew is they got a bad name. Those who left in 75, a whole bunch of them left, and I heard, they said Jehovah was cleaning out his organization. But in the 80s, I was heavily in. I was a ministerial servant. I was really serving. I was really, going to town. So I didn't want to hear about any new information they had. I didn't want to hear about any new books they had coming out. When I went to the hall, they said we had new information. I was like, what are they talking about, new information? What do they mean by that? I wasn't, for some reason, I was like wide awake. Yeah, it was like I wasn't going to take it. But I have to say, Rich, I have to say, when I saw their faces in that cognitive dissonance, I didn't know what I was looking at. I just thought, you were my friends, and now something seems really, really wrong. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have that part of them shut on, or I'm sorry, turned on. There was a part of them, and I think it's called compartmentalization. And that is the beginning of schizophrenia, because we have built-in bullshit meters for a reason. We have a heart for a reason. The heart is what helps us love those who can't love us. So if they tell you don't go into your heart's treacherous and desperate, don't go there. Don't feel sorry for the disfellowship guy. Don't go over there and put your arm around somebody. You know what I mean? We're out of touch with elements that the Lord put in us. The Lord put in us a right brain, a etheric right brain to pray with. He put in a left brain. We'd have logic and reason. And then he gave us a heart so that we can love with. And so the Watchtower has shut them all off. Don't think, you don't even really have to pray. We're the mediator. We're the ones who Jehovah pointed over our belongings. All you've got to do is listen to us, do what we say, and we're going to tell you in another way. You need to listen to us like your life depends on it, because it does. So they've even replaced our relationship with Jehovah. So our right brain doesn't really have to pray. We're all taken care of. We just show up to meeting. The left brain doesn't have to think. We have the elders and the brothers. And then the heart doesn't have to feel. They have completely shut us down. We really are, kind of robotic, but that begins to cause schizophrenia, because one part of ourselves still knows we are bullshitted. One part of ourselves knows they did lie and are continuing to lie. One part of us is watching them lie their ass off at the Australian Commission, watching them lie their asses off. And then one part of us is saying, no, they're not lying. Jehovah hates a liar. Satan is the father of a lie. You're allowed to lie for Jehovah. You're allowed to hide pedophilia. You say you're honorable and you're wonderful man of the Lord, and yet you hide pedophilia. You lie to the government officials. You know what I mean? You're stealing the halls blind now. You're, like they said, people that have paid off halls and taken out loans, and the governing body just sells them off, and those people are out and they don't care. Man, this is crazy. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, guys. It's just sad that we had to go through that, but I want to say, like Connie said, and Angela, there's life after this thing. We don't want to stay victims. But I want to say this about Joe. Mm-hmm. Joe is evidence of what happens when you leave. Mm-hmm. You're going to be abandoned, and you better do some planning before you decide to leave. Because as you saw with Joe and all of us, I don't think we really realized, I know I did, when I left, that the cutoff would be so severe, even from my own mother. I thought me and my mother had this relationship. It was cut off. It was lopped off. And it's like, I don't think we're ready to be abandoned. Just think, we've come from all this camaraderie. We've come from all of this, family and assemblies and going out to eat afterwards and going to brothers' houses and door to door. And then wham, you're alone, like Joe. And so Joe is a great example of abandonment. It's abandonment. It's not shunning, it's abandonment. And so we've got to prepare for that. If we're thinking about leaving, we got to think about, hey, are we going to go into some community? I was going to say to Joe, if he was on there, are you going to any kind of church, spiritual community, you know, stuff like that? You can meet people in those groups. You can have community. Pretty much any church, you can have community, whether it's even in, it doesn't matter if it's New Age or Christian or whatever. Though, if you go to any place, they'll accept you in, and you'll have some people. You don't even have to really go, but anyway, but it's just some things you got to think about, you know, before you exit. Go ahead.
Hey, Dan. So Dan, you talked about me, so this is Gilbert, but you see, Joe has to understand that the words of Jesus Christ are coming and are being fulfilled in him. He's like the rich man that had to give everything up, but he didn't do it. But Joe did. Don't you think John the Baptist was alone in the wilderness because he had to give it all up? The Apostle Paul had to give it all up. Elijah gave it all up, and he was in a cave in Mount Sinai. Moses gave it up, and he was alone in the desert. So what Joe's going through is what every Jehovah's Witness has to go through. This is what I'm saying, is that you were prepared for success, but everybody falls into the trap of Satan. And when they leave, they go, "Oh my God, I see this trap." Well, no, of course it was going to happen. Jesus forewarned you. They're going to kill you like they did all of the prophets. But this is why you rejoice in your loneliness. This is why you rejoice in your suffering. Because at the end of the day, Joe and everybody listening loves the truth more than they love themselves. You can look at yourself in the mirror and says, if I die, okay, so be it. But I love the truth. I hate the lie.
You know what's interesting?
That's the point. So it's sweet. You're sad, but we're happy. How can you be happy and suffering so much? Because we know that we're going to die, but at least we're going to die loving the truth and hating the lie. Yeah, you know what
a good example too, Gilbert, is Paul. I think there's a wandering in the wilderness, you know, or a blindness. You know, Jesus told him, what did he tell him to do? Throw dirt in your eyes. Why? Because momentarily you're going to be blinded. Momentarily you're going to wander in the wilderness, meaning you're going to wander in, where am I at? I don't know where I'm at now. I lost my infrastructure. Watchtower was everything to me. Watchtower was my mediator. Watchtower was my God. Like a lady told me one time, who would you be without Watchtower? If they took that Bible away, who would you be? Would you even know God if they took away your Bible? Would you know God if they took away your church? Would you even have relation? And I had to say no. But here's the thing. What happened to Paul after he was blinded? After he reasoned. See, because I think it's literal, and I also think it's metaphysical, the blindness, meaning he was blinded temporarily, you know, by God, right? And what did he do in that? It was kind of a pondering, right? Why are you killing me? Why are you killing my people? Why are you doing this? What's going on? What the hell? And he had this realization, and then his eyes were open, and then God made everything new. You know what I mean? And that's what happened to me. That's what happened to Angela. That's what happened to you. That's what happened to Constance. That's what happened to, you know, there's always a blindness that happens. That, you know, Jesus, throw the water in your eyes, you know, the sand or the dirt, rub the mud in your eyes.
Well, I was a little different then. Because I was a little different because when I learned the truth about the truth, I was sitting down, I was eating from the bread and the wine by myself. And then after I prayed and everything, I said, okay, I'm ready. The next day, I'm running for governing body, GG for GB. And I say that jokingly, but I did actually do it because I knew they were going to kill me. See, they're going to kill you. It doesn't, they're killing you spiritually. They're attacking you. But I knew it. If they did this to Jesus, literally, if Watchtower could kill us, they would. But they can't because we're in America. Right. So when you have that come to Jesus moment, that everything from the very beginning of the Bible up until the very end, it's a story of what's going to happen to you, and you're going to have to be Moses. You're going to be Elijah, like Joe's Elijah. He's alone in a cave in Mount Sinai by himself, and he feels sorry for himself. He feels pity, but is God mad at him? He's like, no. And he's showing him all of the people that he helps. Says, Joe, look at all of these people. They haven't taken a knee. Why? Because you were the one that set the example. There's so many people that Joe has helped that he doesn't even know. And he's not going to know till after he's dead.
You know, that's the biggest lie in Christianity.
Yeah.
Jesus said this. Jesus said, as I was crucified, you will be crucified. And what's going to be crucified? Your ignorance, right?
Yeah.
The false religion. He said, but here's what happens. There's crucifixion, and then there's what? There's a death to all that you may have known, but then there's resurrection. See, Jesus was a pattern. And what a lot of Christians teach is Jesus was the only one. He's the way. But he said, no, as I was, this will be your way too. I was fully man. And then I had to lose my ego and all the bullshit and all the garbage and all the stuff that wasn't God, falsehood, right? I want truth. And that truth will lead to light. And that light will lead to goodness. In fact, it says when you choose God, you will move from glory to greater glory. You won't stay blinded forever. But some people don't want God either. A lot of the witnesses have said, you know, hey, man, I don't want God either. I've left the Kingdom Hall and I don't believe in no God. Well, I wouldn't believe in Jehovah, you know, some psychopathic God like that. You know what I'm saying? But there's a resurrection afterwards, a resurrection of understanding. We move into new understanding. We die to the old bit by bit, and then we move into greater understanding. So it's death, resurrection, ascension. It's a pattern. It's a pattern for us too. And so a lot of them don't teach that. And a lot of them just teach, I hate it, but I'm watching these churches wield this Bible like a sword, and they're killing people with it. I mean, I hate it. You know, anyway, I better let
Yeah.
Hello, this is hello.
Go ahead.
This is Grace from Sweden, and time is like 5:30 in the morning. So I just wanted to say that some people think I sound like I'm sleeping when I talk, and I guess I'm half asleep sometimes. So I don't call in much because usually I'm sleeping. So anyway, I will try to be quick. I wanted to address a few issues, and wanted to go back to what Joe said about being afraid of having a new relationship and being damaged goods, and like being in a romantic relationship and then pushing people away with bad behavior and destruct the relationship and things. And I mean, some people, they just say, oh, you have to be single a few more years, you have to work on yourself more, you have to do this, you have to do that. But I wanted to encourage everybody, not just Joe, by saying, you will never be perfect, and you will never find a perfect person. You have to forgive each other for not being perfect, and try to enjoy each other. And I guess we are, everybody who were touched by the Jehovah's Witness organization, I guess we are damaged goods. But even damaged goods can still be in a loving relationship. And I think there is a lot of healing in having a relationship. And I think sometimes we think nobody will forgive me if I do this, or nobody will forgive me. But there are lots of people who can forgive you even if you make a fool of yourself. And I wanted to address this cognitive dissonance. I think this is what I experienced, because I think I did love the lie, because they told me God is pulling you in. And then I think it was, I had a major operation, and the doctor told me, you could die. And I said, I'd rather die than take blood. But then, well, when I came back, I wasn't a baptized witness. I was just a student. And they just didn't care about my sacrifice. I noticed when I came back, it was like I wasn't worth anything to them. Like I had offered my life, and it was like it was nothing. So, and then I got this feeling like my earth was turning, and I guess that's when it happened, the conjunctive dissonance. Because I felt, this is not possible. I gave my life, and it's like it's nothing to them. How can this be God? And it was something I was thinking about also. Let's see. Well, here's what I was thinking about also, another subject. I have to go back now again. About, like, you need friends to talk to. If you go to a therapist, it's just 1 hour a week, maybe. Some people need many hours to talk to somebody, and then you will feel better eventually. It might take a long time. You have to be patient. And about ex-wives or ex-girlfriends who maybe took money from you, or like women can also experience men who take money from them. So, and this is just not the subject to talk to your new woman with, because that's the subject to talk about ex-wife. That's a subject you talk to a therapist or your friends. It's not a romantic thing to go to your new woman and use her like a therapist and go on and on about your ex-wife. I suggest write a book or have somebody to help you to write a book. And it's really makes you feel better after you put it on print, and then you can go back and read it sometimes, and it will make you feel better, and it will leave your system more easily, and you will be able to forget about it and move on with your life. And also, well, that's it, I guess. Thank you from me.
Yeah, that's a great point, writing a book. You know, I wrote a book. Anybody still there?
Hey, Dan. Dan?
Yeah.
Guess somebody. Hey, this is Stefan. I'm just letting you know I can hear you just fine.
Okay. All right. I guess Constance and them might have left, huh?
I don't know. But, yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
and I'm good. I just get on.
Oh, there you
go.
Yeah, I was just saying that
ahead,
they
bro.
made a great suggestion about writing a book. I wrote a book, and I didn't think it was going to be too healing. I just wanted to write down some of the things that, you know, happened to me and the witnesses. So I wrote that, The Shocking Insider Story of Jehovah's Witness. It was called Eyewitness, The Shocking Insider Story. And I got a lot of healing from it. And the guy who wrote it said it's going to be a catharsis. You know, it's going to be a part of your healing. And it really was, because like somebody suggested earlier, when you write stuff out, it comes out of your body, it comes out of the paper. I think Constance might have said that. And, you know, getting it down and out of you was a big transformation for me, you know. Anyway, go ahead, Pritch.
Yeah, Dan, I went through the same stuff when I was doing counseling. I was being counseled at the VA for PTSD, and we had these traumatic events, and we had to write them all out and review them. And you're right. Once you write them out, a lot of that stress leaves you. I just had another thought on cognizant dissonance. In 1985, or right in that 84, 85, 86, in that area there, they stopped disfellowshipping people. And they said, you know, if you know anybody that's disfellowshipped, bring them to your house, give them a meal, be nice to them, you know, try to win them back with love, which kind of makes a lot of sense. But so, quick story. My sister-in-law, she was about 10 years younger than myself. she got this fellowship for wearing a Santa Claus on her lapel. And she worked for the same company I did, and an elder caught it, and they brought her to a judicial meeting, which she wouldn't go. So after 2 or 3 of those events, they just fellowshipped her. So she used to do a lot of babysitting for us. So, and my boys, they were young then, I think maybe 8 and 7, 8 and 6, something like that. And they loved her. I just really loved her. And then we had to go tell her, Aunt Mabel spent this fellowship. She can't come over and babysit you. And they're crying, oh, we love Aunt Mabel. Sorry, she's just fellowshipped. Then after about 6 months, the Watchtower came out with here's your cognitive dissonance again. Came out with, you can talk to them, you can have them over for dinner, treat erring ones with as much as love as you can give them. So we bring her over the house and all this stuff. And then a couple of months after that, nope, they reversed themselves. And they're always saying, Jehovah said this, Jehovah doesn't know whether or not you should talk to people that are disfellowshipped. It was crazy. And that's when I really started really scratching my head. I was a ministerial servant then, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. But that's your cognitive dissonance. 1 minute, you have to shun this bunch of people. The next time, you can have them over for dinner. And then 6 months later, you have to shun them. So that's how worked out that organization is. Go ahead.
You know, Rich, too, you know, when COVID happened, you know, I remember Tony Morris. I mean, telling the people, you know, he was trying to get people back out door to door, and they wouldn't go. They were staying home. They got lazy. And he said he used the Bible again as, like I said, as a weapon. And he basically told them, you're going to be drenched in blood, he told them. That's what he told them. He goes, you're going to be dripping. Blood's going to be dripping off you. And I thought, wow. Yeah, you know, and then to think about this, that wasn't that long ago. I don't even think that was a year ago. I don't know how long Tony's been out, but that wasn't that long. And now they're saying, oh, it doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. You know, the meetings, do not forsake the gathering of ourselves as some have the custom. And now that isn't even the case. You know what I mean? Everything, like you said, is changing. Rick played that video today of that elder, and he was given that talk, and he literally turned it on the brothers. He says, "Now this is what you guys are doing." And like Rick said, they're the ones who put it in their head to do that. I forget exactly what it was right now. You probably remember, but it was a short video Rick played of the governing body, and the guy was putting it on the people, saying, "Now this is what you guys do," and they were all laughing at themselves. And I'm thinking, you know, you'd think they would be saying, well, you told us to do that, but like you said, this cognitive dissonance sets in, you know, and we don't know truth from falsehood. We don't know right from left. And I'll tell you too, Rich, when I got out of there, it took me about 10 years to start thinking again. People would ask me, how come you can't make a decision? And I'd say, I don't know. You know, I don't know if I want this. I don't know what I want. I couldn't dream. Because the world was going to end. I didn't have to dream. I didn't have to think about what I wanted to do in my life. If I wanted to travel, if I wanted to do this, it wasn't even a thought. People say you can't even imagine what you want in life. You can't even think about it. And I said, no. And it even till this day, I mean, even, you know, not that long ago, I was like, you know, what do you want, Dan? What do you want to do in life? What do you want? And I was like, something blocked me. And I think it was all the programming of, you know, we're in the last days where, you know, you don't have a dream. You know, I didn't think I was going to drive because I graduated in 1977. So we thought it was going to be over by 75. And so I didn't even have a hope to drive. I didn't have a hope. I didn't play any sports. I didn't do anything. And anyway, it's just interesting to see, you know, after all this time, you know, that hinders you. It hindered my thinking. And it was years before I could make a decision whether I wanted to work for this company or I didn't want to work for this company, or And I didn't realize, Rich, I probably had all those things. Cognitive dissonance, PTSD. I mean, I think I had them all, but there wasn't no groups like this for us to go to. There wasn't no people here to talk to. There wasn't no communities. It was just, you just dealt with it. There wasn't a name for it. PTSD wasn't even around in 77. That wasn't even a word. That was after Iran and stuff, when they started having those wars over there, that they started talking about PTSD, but we didn't even have words for it. We just lived through it,
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Hey, Dan. So, Dan and Rich, so when you're talking about the mental health, you're right. So it sounds like the Jehovah's Witnesses and what Dan is describing is you don't know how to think. You literally, you have a brain, but you don't know how to use it. And so Debbie Moore, she on the chat section, she's right, because she talked about how Joe was telling himself that he's damaged goods. And if you keep saying it over and over again, he starts to believe that he's damaged goods. But hopefully Joe will listen to this, later on when he during the day, and I'll teach him how to think, because Martin Luther King says, he goes, "What I'm saying to you this morning, my friends, is even if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, even if your lot in life was to be a Jehovah's Witness, damaged goods man," he says that you want to live it in such a way that you want to be a damaged person like Michelangelo painted pictures. And then he goes on to say that when the angels come down, they go, "Here lived a great street sweeper, or who swept his job well," or here lived an ex-Jehovah's Witness damaged man, and he did his job well. The point is that when I left Watchtower, there was another guy. His name was Neil, the Great Apostate. He says, "If I'm going to be an apostate, I'm going to be a great apostate." And I said, "Well, if I'm going to be an apostate, I'm going to be the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, GG for GB." And so the way he's thinking is wrong, because he's thinking his way into being a damaged man. So what I would tell Joe is, Joe, embrace it. If that's what, embrace it. The reason why is because there's thousands of people who identify with Joe. They identify as broken and damaged. So embrace it and say, there is nobody in the 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses and the tens upon tens of millions of people that were recycled to that religion, nobody has been damaged more than Joe. Embrace it. And then now it becomes fun, because now you're using your weakness and it's turning into your strength. And that's when the Bible says that when you become weak, you become strong. That's why God didn't take away the thorn in the flesh. God, for some reason, gave Joe a thorn in the flesh. And that thorn is that he feels like a damaged man. Okay, well, run with it and score a touchdown. And let every Jehovah's Witness that's leaving know that you're the greatest of them all. And you got a story to tell. And you're going to help them through this. So that's what I'm saying is, what you always have to get lemons and make lemonade. That is what we have to do, is embrace it. And that's how Watchtower loses and we win. Be the best at everything that you do. And if he feels like a broken man, well, be the best damn broken man that ever existed. Impress the angels and say, like Martin Luther King is talking, that even the angels were impressed. Like, oh my God, here lived this guy, the greatest Jehovah's Witness, that was beat up by Watchtower. That's the kind of attitude he needs to change. He needs to do the flip side of the coin. And that's what I would tell everybody that's listening. You got to turn every negative of Watchtower into a positive, and you have to throw it right back at their face. Am I wrong?
Well, I think that is really good admonition for all of us. I think that was really, really well said. Boy, thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah, talk to you guys later.
Yeah, do you want to finish up with something?
I wanted to say something, if I can.
Yeah, please do.
Jesus, I felt like his friends had let him down, in my way of looking at it, when he was told Lazarus, has died. And anyway, he finally went after 3 days and went on his way to go be with his very best friend, Lazarus. who was in the tomb 3 days. And when he got there, the only person that came to meet him was Martha, and Mary wouldn't even come. She was upset with him. And so, it said that he cried. He shed tears. He grieved. And the reason why is because he knew a lot of things that his friends didn't really believe what he was all about. They didn't believe that he could really take care of it. Even when he mentioned it to Martha, she didn't get it. She goes to Mary, she didn't get it, even though he had shown them what he could do. And I just think, we grow into becoming a kind of person who can rejoice when people do these things, when they persecute us and speak all manner of evil against us. It takes time to grow into a maturity of a Christian where we can truly begin to rejoice because we know who we are. We come to know who we are because God begins to fill us and he heals us. He heals our wounds, and we more and more and more grow to the point that we could truly rejoice and know that it's going to be okay, that everything is in perfect order, that God's with us and for us and not against us, and everything's going to be okay, and that he's going to turn it all for good. And we have a lot of reasons to rejoice because we've overcome. We overcome the good opinions of others, all these things that we grow into that take time. Jesus grew in grace and knowledge and in favor with God and then men. And so he had to grow into that. He didn't just instantaneously, get persecuted in the world and hung on a cross right away after he preached for a little bit of time. And no, he taught for 3 years. He grew before that, years before that, in my way of looking at things, because I believe that Jesus was in other places besides what the Bible tells us. And so he grew and grew and grew. So I don't think it's reasonable that you would just suddenly be a mature Christian, click your fingers and, click your heels together and boom, you're a mature Christian. I don't see it like that. And I don't think it's right to make people feel that they should be this perfect Christian right off the bat. It's not how it is. Paul, when he got struck by blindness and then he had to begin to realize that he was going down the wrong road. And then it took 14 years before he was finally ready to start going out and preaching and doing preaching work, because he had to be healed first to relearn everything that he had learned wrong. He had to unlearn and relearn again. So it takes time. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Angela. I'd like to add to that a little bit.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to say, I got the Jehovah's Witness message when I was still in the Marine Corps. And so I got out of the Marine Corps, but I was doing all the stuff the young guys did in those days. I smoked pot and drank way too much and drove cars drunk and had sex with any woman that would say yes. And I did all that stuff. Then I was told that Armageddon's going to come. You better change your ways. So, put on the new personality. But, you just don't snap your fingers like Angela says, and you're an upstanding, wonderful Christian. It takes a lot of years to get all that crap out of your system. And, when Armageddon didn't come in 75 and I was baptized in 73, I started, the only reason I went into the Jehovah's Witnesses is so I wouldn't be killed at the War of Armageddon. That was scheduled to come in October 1975. So, then my old ways started to come back little at a time. I drank a little bit more than I did before 75, and then, smoke a little weed, do a little of this, do a little of that. Got involved in immorality. Most people know my story, but the JW is, once you're baptized, you're going to be this perfect little drone, and you're going to go knocking on doors all the time, and all your habits from the past are all going to be gone just because you dipped yourself under the water at a JW convention. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Any other thoughts?
They
Yes,
use the word wrong.
No.
Because it's behaviors, and I applaud your recovery, but we all have great personalities, so they don't even teach us right, because they don't teach us that we could change behaviors, but as people, our personalities are probably inborn.
Can anybody hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, this is, I'm calling from Asheville, North Carolina, home of the Bears in the mountains.
You must be near us.
Oh
We're in
man,
South
yeah.
Carolina.
Yeah, we got bears walking down the street like cats and dogs. I mean, it's just an everyday occurrence. They go shopping, whatever. But anyway, this is the first time I've ever done this. I've been listening to the broadcast for a while, and I've got encouragement over the years. I was maybe a little less born in, but my mom, I can understand. She was a 27-year-old lady with 2 little kids in a little town in North Carolina called East Spencer. And they came to her door. She was hurt by somebody in the church. She didn't know what she's supposed to do. They knocked on the door. Well, at that time, my dad was not in it. He was kind of wine, women, and song. If you get that, if you get the drift of that. So she had these 2 little kids, and they what they do, they build this. You're vulnerable, and they build this community around you. They love bomb you to death. And we actually, kids, my sister and I, would say, "Mom, are you going to the Kingdom Hall?" And it encouraged her. She was only 27. I've been 27 before. Long story short, my dad he used to just kind of play the field. But anyway, we had some ups and downs with him as a roller coaster. He put his family on the back burner for other things. And it got really crucial. She would go to the elders in the church. Well, yeah, with the Kingdom Hall, and we were raised. And then she would, sometimes they would listen to her, and then she would say, "Well, I'm just not gonna go to them anymore," because they would kind of make a joke out of it. Well, what's L? I'm not gonna say his name, but what's L doing this time? And so she confided in an older lady. Well, as I grew up, I'm a mental health nurse now. I work for 2 national known companies, and to grow, I was bullied in school, and I always liked to sing. And my choir director at school, I guess I'm more the ones that was privileged. My mom allowed us to sing, but we couldn't do the Christians, the Christmas songs and different things. And she was able to get a car, and we would go. We were like the Golden Girls. We were my sister, my mom, and we would just applaud when my daddy would leave us for 4 days, because we had the conventions in Roanoke, Virginia. We would go in the swimming pool. Everybody knows that. And my sister became belligerent, but my mom did a lot for us. She instilled those values in me, as far as how to deal with my children. And she spent all of her money on my sister and myself. And what she did, we just encamped each other. Well, as I grew older, my sister, she never got baptized, and she became adamant about she was going through teenage adolescence. Well, the fear is what gets you. So here I am, the good girl. And, by me being bullied in school, I had no friends. Maybe 3 or 4, and they were kind of like the special needs. I was picked on because I've always had a weight problem. I'm not the biggest person in the world, but yeah, I can lose about 50 pounds, maybe 75. But I got into modeling, and my mom did allow me to do that in our local area. We had a girl. And she liked the way I dressed, because I knew how to dress for my body type. And my mom allowed me to do that. It wasn't nothing that would take away from the meeting. And I worked at the local hospital. I worked at the nursing home. The only jobs I've ever had was nursing. I was a candy striper, y'all know, back in the day. And I befriended, back when I was 13, one of the brothers in the church, and he was married. And I was just looking for that attention. And my dad at the time was just awful. And so I bought my first car, and I was always a daddy's girl. And my dad just like, "Well, whose car is that in the driveway?" He wasn't a Jehovah's Witness back then. And so I befriended this brother, and he was having trouble with his wife because She just wanted him to produce children, one child after another. Bim bam boom, you know, I got involved with it. And I was just, now that I look back on it, I was just looking for attention. Well, he went on to confess to his wife because he wanted to marry me, and I got the fear. It's a totalitarian society. The fear is what kept me back. It wasn't that I was being belligerent. Well, the elders in the church knew me from ground up. And I worked the third shift at a hospital on a medical floor, and I had gotten home, and they knocked on my mom's door, and they woke me up. I had worked third shift, and they woke me up, and I'm staggering up the hall, and there's these three elders, which, you know, I knew them, and my mom left the room, and I'm in a daze, and they were saying, well, do you know the word Cornelia, blah, blah, blah. Well, I knew that was coming up. So my mom had surgery, and I was one of the nurses that took care of my mom. Well, long story short, I got disfellowship because I didn't come forward. Well, I married the first thing smoking. I was a medic on a construction site. Y'all remember the 2-day Kingdom Hall bills? And I married a guy in 30 days. So that's how, because I was down towards the eastern part of North Carolina. Asheville was just like coming to Minnesota. Let's just put it out there. I had no clue about the mountains of North Carolina. And he was just not for me. Long story short, I stayed up here. But what got me was there's no support. I had no family up here. There's no support. I got involved with other people. I got one child. And that child, you know, I got mixed up with another situation. And my kids, my mom, my dad at that time was said, you can't drag your mom, I'm going to go use her name, out from it. He was picking at her. She got to go preach to those Agneses. That's what he said. She would rather spend more time in the witnessing work than see her grandkids. Well, she took care of my oldest son, and I would take him, they would come and get him, and I would work. Well, as time progressed, as they got older, she started pulling away. These are her grandkids, and I have 2 special needs children. They are autistic.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you have a question or it's an interesting story. There's other people trying to get on.
Yeah, I was just kind of telling my story. I've never done this before. I've always listened, but I've never done this before. So I can cut it off. I was just, you can get encouragement through other people. I don't have a question. I've just never done this before and just wanted to talk. That's all.
Oh, well, we're glad you came on. There are people behind you, that probably wanted to say something.
Yeah, I know you had, I understand that as a professional, but I know you had Joe on there and he was expressing himself for quite a long time, and that's perfectly fine. But, you just keep the good work going. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling. Thank you. *6, if anyone wants to make a comment. I think we're...
Yeah, hey Dick, it's Eric.
Yeah, Eric.
Hey, I was going to add to a point that that Dan was making when he was talking about Anthony Morris, about the hands being bloody, and he's totally right. He did give a talk about that, but there's actually details to that talk that he didn't bring up that I'd like to talk about. He said specifically that if you don't go out in service for 3 weeks, there's going to be blood on your hands and you'll lose your life. You're going to lose your life. That's exactly what he said. Now, I find this interesting that you don't have to report time anymore. So what does it matter if you do it in 3 weeks or not? Right? Doesn't it? It's like the last minute. It's all bullshit. It's part of my French, but it's all bullshit. These guys are talking right out of their ass. I mean, I've heard Dan say that there's blood on your hands, and he's right. He did say that, but he also said that you'll lose your life just not for going out in service for 2 weeks. These guys are psychopaths.
Well, they truly are. They've been selling that story for a long, long time. If you don't go out in field service, and find Jehovah's sheep, because they're out there, then you will be blood guilty, you SOB.
Can you imagine the mental health issues, Dick and Constance, that would cause people,
Guilt.
Thinking, oh God, I didn't go out in services, it's been a busy month.
Yeah, well, any psychologist will tell you the number one thing that causes suicides and depression and so forth is guilt. And the Watchtower will guilt you to death. You go in that organization, you got to do field service, you got to clean the Kingdom Hall, you got to do this, you got to go quick build, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't take your kids to the beach on Saturday because you got to train them in mental discipline of Jehovah. You got to take them door to door, and so, I did all that stuff, and they hated going. I hated going. But you did it because, well, if I don't preach, then I'm going to die at Armageddon, or the elders are going to say something, or, for me at the time, they look at your hours if they're going to make you an elder. That's important part of the thing. But yeah, guilt is the big thing. They just put you on a guilt trip for ever and ever and ever. You never have any joy. You never have any peace. You've got guilt, and then you've got PTSD because you think Armageddon's coming right around the corner, and you always feel guilty because you never can do enough. If you went preaching every single Saturday, well, why can't you preach on Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, or can't you take a day out of work and go preaching? They're never going to be happy. They're never going to be satisfied. Never.
On top of that, Samuel Hurd says, "Is your best good enough?" And then he has the audacity to mimic like an old woman's voice, and he says, "But Brother Hurd, it hurts." And he's like, "You can still walk, can't you?" That's a level of unlovingness and empathy that I've never seen before. Just like outright, we've seen it before, but these guys are just showing us who they are through their speeches. And apparently they're showing the governments because they're using it against them. And I think that's beautiful.
Well, they go preach, preach, preach. That's all they preach to us is to go preach. But they don't do it. Do you think that Jeffrey Jackson's going to get his Bentley and drive down to Hell's Kitchen and start placing magazines or books or whatever? It's never going to happen. I don't think that man's ever rang a doorbell in his life. And I'll bet that's true for most of those governing body guys, too. Maybe in the early days.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Sure.
Do you mind?
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I thought you said tell me something else. This is Debbie, and I wanted to ask the sister that just called in from North Carolina to please get in touch with Rick, because I thought she had a very, very interesting story. And the fact that she's a mental health nurse, she would have a lot to offer when we're talking about the subject of mental illness, because she's obviously had a lot of training in that department, and she wasn't asked to come back on, to do like her experience. And I think that would be something I would like to invite her to do. And if she doesn't want to do that, I'd like to invite her to give me a call, because I was very interested in what she was saying.
Okay, well, maybe I'll take that as some corrective criticism. But sometimes they just ramble on and on and on and on. And there are other people just waiting to get on, and the hour is quite late.
Well, I wasn't meaning to be rude, Dick. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant that was her first time to call. And I'm just kind of like inviting her back to like tell her story. I didn't mean to be rude to you or disrespectful. I'm sorry if I came across that way.
I didn't take it that way. She's more than I'd be thrilled to have her come back on. Not at this hour. I'll be trying to wind things down now. It's a little after 12.
Hey, Dick.
I think yeah, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, I think at first, it's okay to be pissed off. I was pissed off, really pissed off for about 10 years. I was really, really pissed off. Nobody likes to be ripped off. Nobody likes, the Watchtower is an investment. We gave up our educations. We gave up our, everything for Watchtower. And then to find out, like Eric said, we were bullshitted. You know what I mean? That hurts. And so there's a time period to be angry. And then there's a time period to heal. And what I'm enjoying now, I think the biggest thing I'm enjoying now is my heart awakening to where I can love people. My brain thinks now. I can dream again. And in dreaming again, I'm creating things again. I can paint. I can do so many beautiful things that I never did before. And I think I think what it's called is entering the kingdom. And I think Watchtower has stole that. Yeah, that's the saddest thing. They built a temple within us. They built a fake temple within us. And they kept us in there through fear. And that temple has to come down. And it's not pretty, like what Joe went through tonight, what we've all went through. We've all had to go through the hell. We've all had to go through the veil coming off of Watchtower and going, oh my God, where was I for 40 years? But we can't, and I won't let it be, and I know most of us on here won't let it be the last chapter in our book. We can't let Watchtower be the last chapter in our book. Yeah, you know what I mean? And for me, it's so wonderful. Man, I can feel again. I can feel. I can dream again. I can think of the future. Like, hey, this year I might go to Barcelona, Spain. I don't know. I might go to, Sedona next month, this week. Yeah, I can do things. I'm free. And it's so wonderful to be able to move and not have guilt. I remember, going out and having when I was out at the ocean, they're like, did you pass out the brochures while you were on the beach? Did you give the brochures out when you went to the grocery store? We were a full-time 24/7 salesman. And man, if we can survive this breakup, if this dismantling of an old temple, if we can let it crumble and fall, we can be rebuilt. It can be rebuilt. And, your testimony of it, Rich, we're testimonies, Eric, all of us, we can be put back together. Humpty Dumpty doesn't have to have a great fall and no one can put them back together again. We can be put back together and we can live a good life. And there's a promise in the Bible. It says, I will give you back what the locusts have eaten. The lost years I've gained back. Don't you feel like you've gained them back, Rich? Mary, beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't tell you for a long, long time. I was just void of feelings. It first started, when I came back from Nam, I had a zero Aflac. I was just flatlined. And then I got into the Jehovah's Witness. I was really excited about that for a few years. Then Armageddon didn't come, and I didn't dwell on Jehovah's Witnesses that much during that period of time. And then I go through the divorce, and I was scammed by elders. I was scammed by my brother-in-law. Everyone that I loved just turned on me. And when they turn on you, they make sure they hurt you, and they make sure they'll take every damn penny you offer them. Or even if you don't offer them, they'll steal it from you, or they'll swindle you out of it. So, I'll tell you what, my life started to change when I met Rick Farron. That absolutely started to change. It was a slow thing. Initially, I still had to clean up a lot of stuff, but I thank God for him. Because now I'm like yourself, Dan. I'm doing really, really well.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
It feels good. We've been put back together. Our minds have been put back together. We have homeostasis. I want to say something about Paul. They asked Paul. They said, Paul, how do you speak with such power and authority? Because he woke up. He woke up. He was having people murdered. He was in a false reality. He was in a made up thing. And he was blinded for a moment. He came out of the blindness and then he became this powerful spokesman. You know why he was powerful? Because he was clear. You know, Jesus wasn't no pussy whip guy. I mean, he'd get right in the face to face with the apostles and you're using the Bible wrong. You're using the Bible to kill these people. You're using the Bible as a weapon to beat people down. These robes you're wearing, what's all that about? What's all this clown garb that you're wearing? Why do you have to be elevated? Who are you to be elevated? I'm telling you, these people are going to do the things that I did and greater. You're not junk. You're good. And so there shouldn't be no elevation with governing bodies and all of these infrastructures and all of this stuff. We're to be raised up to that stature. I mean, that's powerful. The kingdom of God is at hand. We're not supposed to be waiting around for the world to end. We weren't supposed to join a Watchtower and become a salesman for Watchtower and wait for the world to end. I don't care. If you're in any religion, you're not supposed to be waiting, anticipating, hoping for the world to end. If you're following Jesus, if you say you're following Jesus, he says you're going to be a light of the world.
Excuse me, please, Dan. Wait, just hold on a minute. Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this call with this sister was just ended because it's getting late. We all know everybody else's stories, but several people in the chat, including myself, did want to hear that sister's story, and we wanted to go on here and tell her maybe she could go on Linda James's channel, Apostle Babe, because some of us are wanting to hear her story, and hopefully she can have and get her story in on Linda's channel tonight.
Yeah,
maybe
Linda James YouTube. She's on there right now.
That's what it's called. I didn't know the name of it for sure. Was it?
Yeah,
Linda James or Apostle Babe Linda James? Or?
No, just Linda James. Just type in Linda James and then go to YouTube and she'll pop up live and then you just go on. And then you can ask Linda to send you a link. You can say, Linda, send me a link, and she'll send you a StreamYard link. And you click it, and you can talk to Linda, and she's wanting some.
Oh, okay. Well, if that sister can still hear us talking, will you please go on YouTube to Linda James and maybe come on there and start telling your story, because we really are interested in hearing what you have to say. And since this was your first time to call in after listening quite a while, we really are interested in you and what you have to say. And we just want to invite you to come back, because you're just as important as everybody else that's come in on the calls. Okay. I just wanted to say that, guys. Go ahead.
Good. Thanks. But anyway, that's all I wanted to share, Dick. Just that there's life after Watchtower, and we were meant to live it. I've come so you could have life and have it more fully. And yet, you know, we weren't to be dead man's bones. We weren't supposed to be putting our light under a basket. We were to be letting that light shine and being a light in a dark place. We are to be that light. The spirit in us is to be that light. And so anyway, that's the real religion. The real religion, that's the truth. That's the real religion. And so anyway, I don't want to get into preaching, but anyway, that's just how we live now. That's what we've searched for when we got up. You know, we didn't toss out God. We were on a search for God when we got out. We're like, there's got to be God. There's got to be. And then we found out there's this loving God, you know. Anyway, that's it, Rich. That's all I wanted to say. I wanted to keep it.
Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you for coming on. I'm going to be closing it down in about 10 minutes. Anybody have some any more thoughts? Well, I would just say to Debbie, who was a little upset with me, the program was a 2-hour program. I was supposed to get over at 11:30, and it's going on 12:30. And me and Connie both have to get up early in the morning too. So maybe I'd cut her a little bit slack. But if I offended her, I am sorry. It was not my intent. Yeah, a lot of people call in from California, and we're 3 hours ahead of you. So on the East Coast, it's after 12, Sunday morning right now. Any last thoughts out there? Star 6?
Dick, I didn't mean to sound rude. I'm sorry if I offended you also. I'm Central Time, so I'm just an hour behind you. And I know it's still 2 hours behind me that Linda's on. That's why
Of course, if that sister's in North Carolina, she's on Eastern time also. So if she's used to working third shift, this is just a regular time of day for her. That's all. But I'm sorry if I offended you. I was irritated. I will admit that, because I felt like all the men were able to go on and say what they wanted to, and then she comes on, and she's a woman, and I just felt like she was being. Maybe it's just a holdover from being a witness for me, but having been a woman and want to be kept quiet, I just kind of, snap back about that, because that's what I felt like was happening.
Well, I do understand how you feel, but the reality is when Joe Dario called up, he was suicidal. So we.
Oh, I wasn't talking about Joe. No. I didn't mean to say no. I talked to Joe on there. I have no problem with what happened, but okay, I love Gilbert and I love Dan Clark, but the two of them do take over a lot. And I talk too much too. I know that. But I'm just saying that the two of them being able to say everything they wanted, but she got cut off, that did irritate me. So, but I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be rude. That's just how I felt. That's just the truth.
Yeah. If somebody went on and wasn't making any points, they just were, telling every little facet, of their life, and other people wanted to see. I'm not at a control panel like Rick, so I can't tell you if there's people 5 or 6 deep waiting to get on, and she was just going on and on and on, and wasn't seemed to be asking any questions or making any points. The fact that she was a woman is irrelevant to me. It just
but I'm looking at it from a woman's point of view. Okay, we do tell details of everything, and and what bothered me is she said she's been listening for a long time, and it was her first time to call. I'm not saying you were wrong about ending the call. It's just the way it happened. I wish you had said, "But why don't you come back and tell your story?" Like with touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, like with Anne Marie. That was my whole point. I'm not saying. I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't mean to be rude. Okay, but from a woman's point of view, we do share emotional details and things that the men are able to go on and on and on, like preaching on here, preaching to the choir. We all know this stuff. We know what Watchtower is doing and everything from that standpoint. I'm just talking about, I'm talking from a woman's standpoint. And the women in the chat were saying the same thing. We were interested in her. Even to you, it might have just been needless details. But she's talking to the women also. And y'all got to give us some leeway on how we feel too. Okay? And I feel like I might be disrespectful right now, and I don't mean it that way, and I don't think you meant it to be rude either. I really don't. I'm just talking from a woman's point of view, and we're more emotional than the men. Okay, that's all.
All right, I get it, and I love you, and don't take it to heart. It's kind of difficult sometimes to do a program if you're not at the control panel. Because I don't know how many people really want to get on and say something. There might be some person, some JW, ex-JW, that might be suicidal. Like we had a gentleman on earlier today that was suicidal. We really had to let him talk and get it out, get some of those emotions out. But it just seemed to me that there wasn't a whole lot of intensity or emotions with the ladies that called. It just seemed to me that she was rambling. I will take that under advisement. I'll talk to my wife about it tonight, about the woman's point of view. And you might be right. Maybe I just handle it from a guy's point of view. So I'm still learning like everybody else.
We all are. And I hope Joe stayed and listened, because
I'm just an hour and a half from where he's at, and I've been looking for a tribe for years. And I would love to find somebody that close to me in distance that I could like meet up with. It would be so awesome. I just really, we could be, he and I could be friends. It sounds like we're about the same age. We were both witnesses the same amount of time. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I would really like to meet Joe and talk to him.
Well, I hope it works out for you. I can just tell you, I met my dear wife on 6 screens, so anything can happen.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I am single, but, I am single. I'm a Southern woman. You know how to treat our men, right?
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Lord, please. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Aaron. I've been listening all night. I was debating on whether I was going to come on and say anything or not, mainly because when Joe was talking and telling his situation, well, I started thinking that a lot of what he was saying, pretty much almost 90% of what he was saying, is basically a lot of my feelings and thoughts, minus the suicidal part, which I came in a little bit after the program started, so I didn't know that that was the reason why he was on and why he took up so much time. But now that I understand that, but yeah, like, I mean, he sounds like he's a lot older than me, but I'm 40, and I was actually debating on coming on. Another reason was because I didn't know. It seemed like there was a fine line between the people that started talking after Joe, whether you were allowed to tell your story, or like the lady seemed like she was trying to do, or whether you were just going to come on to share a thought or something like that, But I just thought if I did come on, I would just come on and share a couple of things and, say that my thoughts were similar to his, other than the suicidal part, as far as how the JWs ruined my mental capacity. And it's still affecting me, even though I left 18 years ago now, but it's affecting my interpersonal relationships, my friendships. I'm a kind of a recluse, a lot like Joe mentioned. I think he mentioned he's alone. He was alone a lot. I'm that way. I feel like I can't get any action from women. I don't even know how to talk to women, even though I'm 40 years old and I'm running out of time to do that. So, those are the things that bother me and that I'm struggling with on a daily basis. And it's not getting any easier. I had this great plan when I was in my late teens and all throughout my 20s and 30s. I had this great plan. What I was going to do is become completely debt free. First of all, I bought my house when I was 23, which I didn't want to pay rent. I wanted to own so I could get it paid off and not have to pay anything to anybody just to live somewhere anymore. You know what I mean? So I did that. I paid off my house when I was 38. And I bought a car, a decent, nice used car that was about 3 years old, and I paid it off. So now I have no car payment either. And I'm working part-time, so I don't even have to work full-time. So I have a lot of free time on my hands, but it's really difficult for me to, like, I'm feeling really lonely all the time, and it's just, well, I've talked to Joe and Fran and, before, and they're really nice. So it's just nice to have the connections on here and through them and through the 6 screens, just to know that I'm not alone out there. So yeah, I won't take up all the time because I know you guys got to get going.
Well, that's fine. I'm glad you called, really. And there's hope out there. I know what Fran and Joe are doing is pretty good. I think maybe someday someone's going to have a XJW website, for meetups and stuff like that, meeting people.
Right.
I would say
Fran and Joe have that, Dan. They do have that. Fran and Joe have a website that they're letting ex-Jehovah's Witnesses meet other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and they've got phone numbers and birthdays and everything for all of us, and our phone numbers, and they'll share it with everybody. But they do have a website just for friends meeting friends.
Well, there you go. I would say this to you: if you've been in a lot of years in the JW world, when I was at this fellowship in 1990, I found it really hard to relate to women, on dates and so forth, because I had so much JW in me, and it really works out for me. My wife is a former JW, and we have so much in common. We have a lot to talk about. I think I would suggest to you strongly, if you're looking for a mate or someone to date, that it would be an ex-JW or former JW. I really would recommend that.
That's a good viewpoint. That's a good, interesting viewpoint, because I feel that way myself, and I felt that way for a while, that maybe I would connect better with an ex-JW should I meet one that was interested in dating. But I've also read that the opposite on like Reddit forums and stuff where people posted about that. They were saying, oh, opposites attract, and, for at least for them, I guess it worked out better to not have that. But I've already been down that road through, I had a 5 to 6 year off and on situationship. That's what I'm going to call it, because we never really solidified anything, even after all that time, where we were just kind of hooking up and, hanging out a lot, but we didn't live together. And that was really about it. And she never really understood my witness background and how it affected me. And I really, truly believe that, I think even Joe was saying that if he didn't have that, if he just had a normal childhood, and I feel the same way, if I had had a normal childhood without restrictive parents that tried to hold me down, yeah, I probably would have made a lot more mistakes growing up and all that. I wouldn't have been so sheltered. But at the same time, I probably would have been more extroverted, which I'm not terribly introverted either. I'm about 50-50. So, but I would have been more of a go-getter, and I think I would have had more confidence. That's the main thing. But the witnesses, I feel like the upbringing that I had robbed me of all those things. And as I get older, it gets more difficult to gain those things.
Dick is right, though. I think it is best, like he said, to try to be with another ex-Jehovah's Witness, because you do need that kind of thing in common. You really do. And Dick, I've been calling you Dan. I'm sorry. Just dawned on me I didn't call you Dick a minute ago, but yeah, no, but Aaron, Dick is spot on with that.
Yeah, I believe that too.
But there are more women than men that are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, so that would leave a lot of women single if we have to follow that rule, everybody. I mean, somebody might follow it, somebody else might not want to follow it. So, but I think there are so many good advisors on YouTube, and that are coaching people in how to date when you're getting older and everything. So I think you should Google it, and you can learn as much as you can about how to romance women and how to go about to make a relationship serious or let go when it doesn't lead anywhere. And I forgot his name now. I think it was Ash or something. He was like a dating coach, and he had some good advice that I followed, and it actually helped me. So don't be afraid to go on YouTube or Google and find dating advice.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Certainly keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it really will, behoove you to find a former sister, especially one that's had problems with the Jehovah's Witnesses, the organization itself. I mean, me and Connie, we have so much in common. Matter of fact, we've been in the new house since August, and we don't even have a TV hooked up. We just talk all day long, all night. We're just so compatible. There's just so much joy in this house. I mean, we hardly ever have a disagreement. It's just wonderful to have somebody that thinks like you and understands where you've been. I just think it's a wonderful way to go. I would strongly suggest, hooking up if you can, with a sister, a former sister. It sure works for me.
Yeah, and I truly believe that there's someone out there for everyone. It's just the journey of finding that person that really you can click with. That I mean, just putting this out there, even psychopaths have someone out there for them. It's another psychopath. You know what I mean? Not that I'm condoning that or whatever, but I'm just saying.
Oh my God!
I believe that's the case.
Aaron, don't approach your sister with that line. Don't approach your sister with that line. I'm not a psychopath, but if I was, I could. No, that's not a good way to approach a woman. I'm just giving you a hard time. That's all.
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd try to lighten the mood a little bit.
Well, you did. That was funny. That was a good one.
Yeah, I was going to say too. Me and Angela, same thing. We've been talking. I don't know if I've talked to you before. Do you live in Portland?
Me? I live in Delaware.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I talked to another guy in Portland. But yeah, me and Angela, same thing. She was out of a cult, Worldwide Church of God, and we've spent 10 years talking. We never get tired of talking, and there's so much to talk about and sort out and stuff, and we do have to relearn though how to treat a woman, because when I was in the Kingdom Hall, they just said if you're past the bloom of youth, find a woman to get laid, and I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what they told us. My uncle said they got the same movable parts, just marry one. And he was a presiding overseer. He was, he tried. I won't go into it, but anyway, you learn that the woman's like a part of you. She's the same as you. You know what I mean? It's like you're a partner. It's not like the organization where there's this head and there's this woman who's lesser and you're the provider, and all this weird stuff. It's like you really are a team, and so anyway, that was a little learning curve for me. I just want to throw out there that, wow, this person is equal with me. This person is important. It's more than what we were told when we were witnesses. It was so primitive in there. Imagine they have the same movable parts. That's what my uncle told me. He said, just marry one. Just marry one. You're past 24. You're still having, strong sexual desires. Just marry one. And we never learned to really know a woman, really get to know them, and really find out who they are. They were there for that. I don't know. Maybe you didn't come from that kind of congregation, but that's what we were told.
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of young person stories are similar, but I mean, not everyone gets married young in the organization, but I'd say a lot of them do, and I was one of them. I mean, I was 20 when I first got married, and I was divorced at 26, and as far to my knowledge, she's still in the organization, although with the organization's recent changes, you have to hope that she's not that brainwashed to where she can start thinking for herself a little bit.
Yeah.
And but
well, I can tell you got a good brain. You're going to find a good girl. You'll find a good one. Just put yourself out there. Let people know you're single. Just say, hey, I'm single. I want to talk to somebody, and you'll be surprised. It might happen pretty quick. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, Fran and Joe. Yeah. I think he knows Fran and Joe. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, there's lots of people out there that would love to talk to you, and lots of women, and and you'll be surprised. You'll hit it right off, and you'll have so much to share and so much healing to do together, and it'll be beautiful. And I asked God, I was like, hey, God, but mine was pretty quick. I was laying in bed one day, and I said, God, I don't want to go to the bar anymore. I'm looking in all the wrong places. I don't know where the hell she's at. I give up. I mean, I'm really am. And the next day, I met her. I let go. I said, I'm not going out anymore. I remember I went to Einstein Bake, and then I went to a training, and there Angela was, right out of a cult, thrown away like I was. My wife threw me away. Her husband threw her away. And
Wow.
bam, that was it, man. Bam. We were like, that was my wife right there. I knew. And so I can just tell you're intelligent and you just seem like a really good guy. And I'll be praying for you too, okay?
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan, this is Gilbert. On the dating scene, Joe talked about, he called earlier about, whether you're a Jehovah's Witness or an ex-Jehovah's Witness. The problem is, there's a problem. Everybody knows that there's a lack of men. The dating scene is not uniform. It's kind of like China, right? There's too many men, not enough women, or whatever, or the other way around. But anyway,
Many women and not enough men.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now there's a guy that a lot of people don't like because he's very he's like Anthony Robbins with like gallons of testosterone, and he's very foul mouthed. But his name is Dan Pena. But he's that kind of guy, right? I love Dan Pena. And so Dan Pena, he says something, and I'll tell you Jehovah's Witnesses, and you also got to tell Joe, is that Dan Pena, and it's kind of I'm going to skip the dirty part, but he basically says that every man has a number. And so he would go, he was telling the class that he would tell these women something very sexual, like a pass, like a first liner. And he would get slapped 17 times. But on the 18th one, the woman would give him the keys to the hotel room. So the point is, he would tell that in his his seminars. But the point, and now whether that's true or not is whatever. But the point that is true is that every man and every woman has a number. So the point, it is true. And so what happens is this: the reason a Jehovah's Witness or an ex-Jehovah's Witness does not find a woman or a man is because you have not knocked on enough doors. You've only tried 4 times. So so the point is this: you have to ask 20 women to get maybe 1 date. Now, if you're better looking, you might only have to ask 10 to get a date. But then you have to go on 10 dates to find a girlfriend. You might, but it's a numbers game. That's all it is. No. So instead of saying that, well, there's nobody I can find, no, you're not hitting the pavement, because Dan Payne is a sales guy, and he's trying to tell you that the reason you're not reaching your sales goal is because you haven't reached your numbers, and we all have a number, and it makes total sense to me. So like I would tell Joe, when he called earlier in the 6 screens, I'd say, how many women have you asked out just for a date? Because then you get good at it. You start learning what to tell women, right? And you start learning that your pickup lines are not really good, And it's like everything. You're practicing, and I think that's you're bringing fun into it, not because you're trying to find a woman your wife on the first date, on the first sales pitch. No, but you're also learning a little bit about yourself, and it's the process is fun. So it's good that you don't have a girlfriend. It's good that you don't have a boyfriend. You need to hit the gym. You need to practice. You got to do it. Before you lose your gut, you need to do like 10,000 sit-ups. That's the number. And I think a lot of times we don't want to put in the time, so we're not going to get the reward. But some people are happy. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm happy, not married. I'm happy. And this is the thing I found. The last thing I want to do is be with a woman to make me happy, because that'll make everybody miserable. If I can't be happy alone, if I can't be happy just being single, how am I going to be happy married? I can't. So that's one thing you have to learn also too. Every Jehovah's Witness has to learn. An ex-Jehovah's Witness. If you can't be happy by yourself, alone, in your apartment, in your home, or whatever, how are you going to be happy married?
That's true, Gilbert. I feel the same way. I finally had to learn to be happy with me, and I am. And I like now I've got more to offer somebody else, but I don't need somebody else to make me feel whole. I'm whole by myself.
Now, Debbie's single.
Yeah, but Debbie, do you understand now why I'm Gigi for GB? I'm the governing body you should have had. I mean, because it's stuff like this that should be taught in the Kingdom Hall. And that's so important. And then once you're happy, like Debbie said, you can, it's their loss. It's not your loss. Hey, you don't want to go out to have coffee with me? That's your loss. Why? Because now she's confident that she has something to offer. She's not.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I want friends. I'm not looking to get married right off the bat. I don't even know that I want to get married again.
Exactly.
That scares me to death.
Yeah.
But I never thought I could be happy by myself. But I found out. Yeah, I'm good company. I like my own company. Oh, and you're talking about a numbers game? I'll tell you. The story. You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince.
That's right. Amen to that.
Well, that's what they refer to in the video game world as RNG. Random number generation. You have to perform the task a certain number of times before you actually get the reward. If anybody's
familiar they say it's like riding a bicycle, but I don't remember how to ride a bicycle either. So.
Is Rich still up? It's been about 4 hours. Is Rich still on the phone? My goodness.
As long as people are calling up and making, a lot of sense, I'll stay up.
I think Rick usually wakes up when it's time to end the stream. So whenever that is.
So, Rich, do you think that that's one of the problems, like I said about Watchtower? They're actually limiting the numbers of you should say, brothers, before you get married, really think about dating 50 people, like on going to Starbucks, going, over here, and just not like boyfriend, girlfriend dating, just having conversations and learn about yourself. What kind of conversationalist are you? See, and just say, if you want to get married to this one person, that's fine. But it's also good to go have coffee with Joe and whatever, because then it is the person you want to marry some schizophrenic, jealous guy that is going to become a madman because you're talking to another guy. These are good things. And Watchtower doesn't do that. They limit your number. So instead of having a high number, they're trying to say, no, you could only, even in baseball, you get somebody who shoots a .33 is a fantastic hitter. That means you have to bat 10 times. Go to bat 10 times, and if you hit the ball 3, you are considered an amazing baseball hitter. Imagine that, 3 out of 10. So that's what I'm saying. It's a numbers game. And Watchtower is the other way around. Watchtower doesn't want you to go on dates. They don't want you to, and because they sexualize everything, And I've noticed that too. And that's why I like to just go. And people think, they don't believe me, but I go, no. I can go have a coffee with a girl and not think that there has to be something sexual. A lot of people,
The Watchtower makes it. You have to date with the intent of getting married. If you're not gonna absolutely marry that person, well, you don't date them. But how are you gonna get to know somebody unless you actually? And the thing is, what I never knew was men and women can be friends, just friends, like you said. It doesn't have to be something sexual about it. In fact, what a lot of men don't know is women find a man who can talk and who is intelligent and who can have a conversation. That's sexy for a woman, or at least for a woman who's brought up in the Watchtower.
Yeah. But there are other things also, because it's all everybody say, I want to make myself pretty, wear a skirt and makeup for the guy and everything. But I think men should also think about how they look and make themselves handsome for a woman and freshen up a bit and things. And also, 49% of all women have some time or many times faked an orgasm. So if you can make a woman find pleasure in you, she will come back. Happy customers come back. I'm not saying it's like for pay, but it's just to say, happy customers come back. And I even know a guy here in Sweden. He had a friend who died, and his friend told him, give her like oral sex, and they will always come back. And this guy
he has a lots of women. Everybody is chasing after him. So
Yeah, I think along that same line of thought, you know, I truly believe that it's about trust, the trust factor. Like, you know, even in your everyday life, not just in your intimate life, how much trust do you have with your partner? And then you'll know whether they're faking that orgasm or not. You know?
It's a whole other book.
Well, I was a Jehovah's Witness, so I don't know what an orgasm is, but I'm sure.
I mean, if you read the Watchtower, it says this is what we learned as a Jehovah's Witness. In sex, you should be generous. That's just what they said. Nothing about pleasing somebody or just be generous. So it's a man-made organization to put women down and just bullshit everything. It's just annoying. Like, sex, be generous. It should rather say, have sex, please a woman. This is how you can please her.
That's true. That's a learning. That I want to just acknowledge that. That's definitely a learning thing, because, you know, men get there quicker. And, you know, a good book to read on it is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus in the Bedroom, because you'll understand the nature of a woman is much slower. It's much more cared about. And, you know, a guy can just get off like that. But a woman, they say, is like a piece of wood that has to warm up and kindle it. And, you know, and we don't know that, you know, and if we don't know that, a woman will starve. A woman will fake it. A woman will act like they're satisfied, but it's a whole learning thing there, you know, and, you know, but again, if we learn that there's more happiness in giving than receiving, then we'll approach it the right way. But that was definitely a learning curve right there. That what that lady said was exactly right. A lot of women suffer. A lot of women will cheat on their husbands. They'll never feel fulfilled. A guy will just have an orgasm, roll over, and go to sleep. You know, and you know, it's just a whole different makeup with a woman, and that's something good to look at. That's not porn. That's not bad. That's something that we got to educate ourselves as men. And, you know, and I was 40 when I got out of there too, so don't feel like you're old. You know what I mean?
Well, see, that's the problem where my brother Jessica and I were talking about how religion has failed people. The schools have stopped teaching. The preachers have stopped preaching. You know, we shouldn't be like, you know, nobody really wants to hear about Ezekiel. If you want to talk about Ezekiel, go to that corner room, and you guys, all the guys can go over there. But people want to talk about things like this, which is everyday knowledge. And so like me as a preacher, I wouldn't be talking about the intimacies of sex, but I would just tell you that one of the problems with sex is real simple. Silence is a killer. So in a relationship, whenever people are silent about things that bother them, whether it's sexual, whether it's you know, maybe certain habits of your husband or your wife, when you keep things in, silence is going to kill. It's like a cancer. It's going to eventually build up, and it's going to kill that relationship. So when it comes to sex, if you're in a marriage and you're silent, it's a ticking time bomb, and you will get divorced because you're creating this huge fire that's getting ready to explode. So silence, you know, so as a church, like a pastor, that's what Watchtower or any church should be talking about. But instead, they're talking about these crazy things, you know, about revelation, and it's like, no. Jesus was always talking about practical things on everyday living, things that you could take to the bank. You know, he wasn't talking to you about the Hebrew word that Ezekiel was using back then. No, he didn't talk like that. He talked about common sense issues. And for example, silence is a killer. Silence is a cancer. It will destroy your marriage. And guess what? The beautiful thing about stuff like that is a 15-year-old boy and girl can actually go to church and feel, oh my God, I learned something today. You know, it's something that they could take with them for decades and decades. So I remember one time I was at church, and this guy said, silence is a killer. Silence is a cancer. and that's how, and so that's what my brother Justin and I were always talking about, how the churches stopped preaching, the teachers stopped teaching. And that's what one of the beautiful things about apostates is that they're doing the job that Watchtower is derelict of duty.
As a witness, we were always taught that sex is dirty, that you shouldn't, all that's supposed to be safe for marriage like that, but I'm just saying, we were taught even in marriage that sex was dirty,
Well,
it's like, well,
it is dirty.
What can I do? What can I not do? Because I remember way back, a sister asked me, she says, well, is it okay for us to have oral sex, or is it not okay? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know, because we never knew, because they would allude to so many things just being wrong. I mean, just even fantasizing about something was wrong, because that's just how it was when you're a witness. It's like you've got a woman's got a chastity belt on, and well, you're just kind of waiting, for somebody to come along with a key. But you just got to take whoever's got the first key that fits, is what it amounted to when you were way back when I was, growing up as a witness. But I got married at 16. All of us kids around my age, we got married real young. I was 16 and my husband was 19, and I had 2 kids by the time I was 20, and I was divorced at 23.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And I was just joking, Debbie, when I said, of course sex is dirty. I meant that as a joke,
Oh, I didn't even hear that. Yeah.
Sometimes
it's more fun when it's a little dirty,
Yeah. But that was a joke. But and that's, I'm a firm believer, you can go to church and you can have a separation where you say, you know what, guys are going to come over here, girls are going to come over here, adults, and you can talk about this stuff because it's educational. And guess what? This is why people get happy. If you're a young little baby or you're a 70-year-old person, what makes you happy is when you're learning. So if you're 20-some-year-old newlywed and you're learning about sex, of course you're happy because you're learning. And so these topics should be discussed. And the problem is that the teacher who's teaching sometimes is like in Watchtower talks about sex. They're the most unqualified person. The man that has 8 kids, 15 grandchildren, he's the one that should be teaching the class. but you have this Jehovah's Witness who's not married, pioneer, and he's single, and he's teaching. He's an elder, and he's teaching the class on sex. That's the problem with Jehovah's Witnesses, is they always have the most unqualified person in the platform giving the instruction. So sad.
I agree.
Yeah, that's certainly true. There's a lot of unqualified elders, servants, and so forth. They don't own their Bible because the Bible that they're studying is a New World Translation, and that's broad.
Yeah. See, so if we were like in a right now, we're in a Kingdom Hall, I would let Dan give the speech on sex, and I would be the guy in the corner with my laptop typing away really fast, taking a lot of notes. Yeah, because it's not my forte. I don't know these things, But yeah, that's the point. That was a joke too. But that's the problem is like Clint Eastwood said, every man needs to know his limitations, and it's a derelict of duty, of service when you go to a church like the Jehovah's Witnesses and you have the wrong people and women who are experienced in this, they should be going to a separate room, right? And they should be talking to the young girls about this stuff. And it makes them happy because, again, anytime you're learning, when a baby's learning how to add and subtract, he's happy. same thing when you're a teenager and you're learning about sex, or an adult, you're learning about sex, it makes you happy. Anytime you're learning and it's beneficial. And so these subjects should be spoken and talked about. And that's that's one thing I might regret about being a Jehovah's Witness, the elders, is that there was so much we could have done, but the infrastructure was such that we weren't allowed to really be good teachers, be good ministers, and thanks to Six Screens and shows like this, we can make up for lost time.
Years ago. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when we were in there, if you think about how crazy it was black and white. Masturbation, right? You're unclean. Go outside of the city and remain unclean for days. If your eye's making you stumble, rip it out. And it went on and on. And I got in a lot of trouble because I was honest. I went and told them that kind of stuff, and I shouldn't have. But they didn't have any other answers besides the scriptural answer, and they weren't honest either. And so you started to think, maybe I'm a freak. Maybe there's something wrong with me. These guys obviously are looking over the top of their glasses, and they're making a face at me like something's wrong. And me and Angela literally went on television one time. I think I might have shared the story in Indiana. And they said, we want you to come on 3ABN. And I said, what are we going to talk about? The lady goes, she was called Cherie Peters. And what's she called? Celebrating Life and Recovery. And we did a 1-hour television show. And she said, we'll just let the Holy Spirit, come on or lead the show. And I'm like, are you sure? And so it ended up being about masturbation and all this stuff. And I was completely transparent. I said I've had escorts. I just said it like it was. And the preachers came up from back, said, you can't tell this on a Christian network. And I said, well, I was married for 17 years. My wife left me and I couldn't get a date. So I bought one, and shut the cameras off again. They came running back out. We can't talk like this. And then I said, and then finally I got the courage to tell my mentor, which was a lady. And they came out and shut the cameras off, said, you don't talk to a lady about these spiritual things. I said, well, the reason I talk to the lady is because all these men are cowards. These men are afraid. They don't talk about this in the church. So everyone thinks they're a freak with normal, natural desire that comes up in your youth. Yeah. And so anyway, end of the show, I said, what got me free was a monk in a silent monastery. And then they shut the cameras off again and said, we don't go to monks in silent monasteries. And, you're a weirdo. And, so they ended the show. And lo and behold, and I want to say this to Gigi, is because of being bold, because of the Dan Pena in me, that will say it like it is.
Yeah.
And just say it. That was the #1 watch show on 3ABN. You know why? Because it was real. It wasn't a bunch of bullshit. It wasn't a bunch of crap. It wasn't a man afraid to say what it is. It was a man that says, I want to help these youth out with their desire born of youth. I don't want to bullshit them. I don't want to look over my glasses. I don't want to fake. I don't want to be a liar. I don't want to be a hypocrite. And so, they said they were, so they didn't put it on. So I called them. I said, hey, guys, we went back to Illinois. We did your show. Are you going to play it? They said, we don't know what to do with it. It's too graphic. So they put a PG-13 on it. And it was cool. It was like we were like a celebrity. Somebody came forward and said, hey, this is kind of normal. I felt like a freak for a long time. In fact, the lady that was helping me, I said, I think I got, something's wrong with me. And she went down to the bookstore and bought all these books, $100 worth of books. She said, will you tell me what the hell's wrong with you? Will you tell me why you can't move, why you're so bound up? And I told her, and she started laughing. And she goes, oh, my God, let's go back to the bookstore. And just think, guys, if we can be vulnerable, if we can tell the truth, if we can start speaking about these things, we can heal. We don't have to hide out. We don't have to be in our own heads thinking that we're all this and that, But these men in the congregation were so cowardly, so weak. It was disgusting. And people suffer in there under these men that are afraid to talk about things that are absolutely normal. Absolutely from a standpoint,
Dan, so check this out. So I've never had any of those problems because, you know, I've always been a Jedi Knight, and you know, I was more like a monk and everything. And but I will tell you this true story about when I was an elder, and I would and these things would come up with the kids, and but I had a lot of leeway because I was in the Spanish congregation, but anyway, and everybody kind of left me alone. But here's the thing, I would tell the kids, I would say, listen, I go, when it comes to masturbation, just remember this: there's a misdemeanor and a felony. If you get a misdemeanor, you get a slap on the wrist. I go, but if you go and you have sex with that girl for the next 18 years, you got a felony, and you're going to have to pay child support for 18 years. And then I would tell the kids, do you understand the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony? And the kids understood it. They're like, yeah. But then I would tell them, now let me tell you why you don't masturbate. You're going to do it anyways, but this is why you don't. I would tell this, the elders would listen, you know, right there. And I would say, it's real simple, because Jesus says if you have your eyes and you're lusting after a woman, you've committed adultery in your heart, right? So, yeah. But we all have sinned. So we all done this. But here's the thing. If you can't control your eyes, and you can't control your ears, and you can't control your hands, well, then you're no different than an animal. But we're not animals. We're spirits. I would tell them that. And the reason you try to control your masturbation problems is because you want to be a man that's fully in control of his tongue, his eyes, his ears. I go, and then you become powerful. But not everybody's like that. But the more you practice, the more you become a man of control. So then I would tell the kids, everyone's going to masturbate. Everybody has. But some people just can't control themselves. They're like little dogs that sniff, and they just go crazy. And then the kids will laugh because they see it with the dogs. I go, but we're not dogs. We're spirits. We actually can have control of every member and of our senses, but not everybody's like that. I go, so, but we try. And so the kids would understand that I would tell them that we're trying to be our best. You know, but then I would always tell them, don't ever tell anybody what you do. Don't ever. And if you have to tell somebody, always tell your mom and dad. And I would just leave it like that. But I was in the Spanish congregation, and everybody was okay with it. I would be with the elders when we talked. But if I was in the English congregation doing that, that would never fly. You know. But that's my take on masturbation, and it just has to do with you want to be like I said earlier, like the Jedi Knight. You know, it's a movie, but it's there to entertain us, but to show us that you can become so powerful that you can actually control every part of your body. Now, are any of us like that? No. But can we? Well, you know what? If we apply ourselves, you know, we are capable of a lot of great things. So am I a master of my domain? Of course I am. Have I sinned? Of course I have. Like in 1986, I think it was the last time. But no, that was a joke. Yeah, that was a joke. But yeah, I want to
Gilbert,
someday. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gilbert, how do you come up with all these analogies and things these illustrations? How do you come up with?
Because Jesus says that he wouldn't speak without illustrations. You know, so, but it's because people would understand it. So when you're talking to a young kid, especially back then, the kids understood Star Wars. So you talk to them in things that they understood, you know, and
I just mean in general, you always come up with all these really good illustrations. And I'm like, where do you get,
because I was a theocratic ministry school instructor for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I used to read that book. I used to read that book all the time.
Yeah.
And you always, yeah. And also, you know, like going back to this masturbation thing, you don't want to make people feel bad. You actually want to make them feel good. Because if they do masturbate, well, it's a misdemeanor. You're not committing a felony. That's a good thing. But if
that's a good analogy too. That's a really good way to teach kids. Really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And before you go to a dance, before you go on a date, you should go to the, do your business 2-3 times, get it out of your system. Because I remember one time I was telling this guy, there were a bunch of, he was a ministerial servant, regular pioneers, they'd go to these parties and they all get drunk. And then I would tell him, I go, listen, I go, just look at her mouth. I go, if you can't kiss her and French kiss her now, you're not going to be able to French kiss her the next 18, 20 years. And he just like brushed me off. And he comes back like a week later, says, Gilbert, I was at that party, and they were all drunk, and this regular pioneer sister was hitting on him. And he goes, all I could do was look at her mouth. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because because everything you said was in my brain. I go, yeah, if she discusses you right now, she's going to discuss you later. So don't even go there. Don't even play with, don't wait till the next one. Wait till the next one. You'll find a woman who you want to, change bodily fluids with. But if you can't, don't even waste your time. But yeah, even when he was drunk, he remembered what I told him, Yeah. But see, that's the whole point is when an elder really loves the people, he's not trying to give them rules. Jesus wasn't giving us rules and rules upon rules. He was trying to let us know that there's something better than rules. There's something greater than rules. Do not masturbate. That's a rule. But guess what? There's something better that you can actually have. If you can control your right hand from masturbating, imagine you can control your tongue. Some people can't control their tongue and they say the meanest things. You know why? Because they also go to the bathroom and they can't control themselves. They have to masturbate. But a man who can control himself and not look and not masturbate can also control himself and turn the other cheek when he's being slapped. You see, you're elevating the human being. We're elevating as humans. We're not animals. I'm not a dog. Even though it's beautiful to see the dogs, even though it's great to have sex, even though it's great to masturbate. Okay, that's great, yeah. But I always want to be aspiring to something better. There's always something better. Are we perfect? No. But, can we tone it down a bit? Yeah, we can tone it down a bit. But anyways, I'm just
guys, we're going to head in.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the conversation, guys. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope you liked it.
Honey. Yeah, good conversation.
And I hope it didn't discourage anybody from doing the deed, but do what you got to do, but always elevate. Always elevate the human race.
They're trying not to elevate, though. They're trying to keep it down. LOL.
Yeah, but they're listening.
Yeah. No elevation. I want to hear from your wife sometimes, Gigi. I want to hear from your wife sometimes. Are you married or are you a monk? What are you?
No. I'm not married. And
okay. I wanted to hear from your wife. Dang. We always want to hear from your guy's wife.
You can talk to my ex-wife. Yeah. I'll give you her number. She'll say great things about me. Yeah.
I know. I think you're great. All right, guys. I'm gonna let Rich go to bed. They got to get up early. We love all you guys. All right.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Well, thank you. Good night. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you all for coming in tonight to the Six Screens. We really had a good program tonight. We thank Dick Borghi and Constance. We thank all those people who came into the program tonight. Thank you very much. And we'll be back beginning today at 1 o'clock. Sunday, 1 o'clock, Six Screens Sunday. Don't miss it. We got a great program coming up, Knowing God. And then at 2, we have a great guest coming on. We have a 20-year-old witness. Well, he just got out of the witnesses. A 20-year-old man is going to come on and share his story at 2 o'clock on the Six Screens today. So we're looking forward to that. We want to thank you all for coming into the Six Screens tonight. Keep standing tall. Keep waving that flag of victory. We'll be back tomorrow night right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork.
You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.